Mecha battle starting from Gundam. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 1443, Abandoned by the One You Love Most. As the leader of the Set Planet, Volflat's request was finally met. First, he could meet Deba, and second, he could communicate face-to-face with the supreme leader of the Promise Caller. Nice to meet you, Mr. Yang Hui. I am Volflat, the leader of the Set Planet. It must be said that this woman with aqua blue hair is really full of beauty. She exudes a mature, noble, and elegant charm in her every move, and also has a faint charm. However, this can't attract Yang Hui, and Yang Hui will not be stupid enough to think that Volflat became the leader of the Set Planet because of this beauty. And Deba, long time no see, I didn't expect that our meeting again would be on this occasion. Volflat sighed. There is no need for you and me to reminisce about the past, Volflat. I am just a guide for Colonel Yang Hui this time. Deba is very vigilant against Volflat. Every time he meets this woman, he will be led by the nose, which is very uncomfortable. That's a pity. Volflat said to Deba with a smile. I was planning to tell you the information about your fiancé. What did you say? Isn't it? Volflat perfectly grasped Deba's weakness, and just one sentence made Deba, who had been planning to remain silent, excited. If you are talking about Cove as an alibi, then don't say anything, Volflat. Yang Hui spread his hands to stop the emotional Deba, and said to Volflat in a cold voice, we know that she is the commander of Porzelda's guard division, and now she is guarding Porzelda. Haha, it's worthy of your intelligence department? Even such information can be found. It seems that it's not just your fleet that is scary. Volflat smiled, not panicking at all because of the invalidation of the cards in his hand, as if he had expected all this. Then Mr. Yang Hui, what do you want to ask me when you come to me? I will tell you everything I know. Volflat sat elegantly opposite Yang Hui and asked with a smile. Amandala Commandala. What? Upon hearing the name, Volflat suddenly stiffened for a moment, but quickly recovered and answered Yang Hui calmly, are you talking about the Death Merchant? I may not know more than you. Amandala Commandala and SART only have some business cooperation. Does it also include helping SART maintain a completely neutral position? Hearing this, Volflat's elegant smile disappeared, and he stared at Yang Hui, waiting for his next words. After you surrendered, our people conducted a detailed investigation of Sat Star, and we actually found some very valuable information. For example, before the Yaman royal family was overthrown, Sat Star had always maintained a cooperative relationship with Amandala Commandala. It was Amandala Commandala's influence that allowed you to remain neutral in various wars. Even the 13 had to be polite when they saw you and didn't dare to touch you. This is very interesting. The 13 are Porzelda's right-hand men, and their authority is second only to Porzelda himself. Even they can't touch you. I don't think a simple arms dealer has this face. It's almost on par with Porzelda himself. Oh, by the way, there is another very interesting thing. My first contact with Amandala Commandala was not very friendly, but I found that he was actually a powerful user of mental waves, and the strength of his mental waves even exceeded that of Porzelda himself. This, could you please explain it? Why do you think I can answer your question, Mr. Yang Hui? Volflat asked Yang Hui with a serious expression. I feel like I should be able to give me a satisfactory answer. Yang Hui spread her hands and leaned casually against the soft backrest of the sofa. Her confident smile and burning eyes told Volflat that he had her in his grasp. I'm very sorry, Sir Yang Hui. As I said before, SART and Amandala Commandala are just a simple business cooperation. No, please change your starting point, Volflat. Yang Hui stretched out a finger and shook it, interrupting Volflat. What I want to know is not the relationship between SART and Amandala Commandala, but the information between you and Amandala Commandala. Do you understand? No comment. That's easy. Yang Hui spread his hands helplessly, snapped his fingers and let the guards outside the door swarm in. Since there's nothing to talk about, you have no value. Sir Yang Hui, although I am just a weak woman, but SART, I still have some confidence. If you want to control SART, it is not a wise choice to take action against me. Volflat said to Yang Hui in a cold voice. I have never underestimated you, Volflat. Yang Hui stood up and leaned closer to Val Flat. Although he had a smile on his face, his smile, eyes, and tone were all frightening. A woman who can control the Set planet with her cunning and skill is just a weak woman? But I didn't underestimate you, but you overestimated yourself and the Set planet. What do you mean? It's very simple. Your words still have some value. They will be sent to the Federal Army headquarters for interrogation. As for the Set planet, let it be a mess. At worst, it will be blown up directly. Yang Hui said the cruelest fact in the most calm tone. You. Colonel Yang Hui. Not only Val Flat, but even Daba looked at Yang Hui in horror. He never thought that Yang Hui would destroy the Set planet so cruelly. Moreover, he knew very well that the blow-up mentioned by Yang Hui was not just to destroy the Set satellite, but to destroy the people living in it. Although I surrendered, I received a lot of reports. Yang Hui glanced at Daba, gave him a look to let him understand it himself, and then continued to say to Val Flat, there are many people who do not obey the management of the Federation, and it seems that there are many vicious incidents. This is not an attitude of surrender. They are criminals and foreign civilizations. It's okay to eliminate them directly, right? By the way, they also took in the wanted criminals of the Federation Army. This crime is very serious. Val Flat's eyes widened. It was unbelievable. How did he know? There's no way. Such a special mental wave is impressive, and such a huge mental wave should not be completely hidden when the emotions are not stable enough, right? By the way, Yang Hui pointed to his head and said, although I can't compare with a Mandala, my mental wave is not weak either. Haha, you can't catch him. Knowing that he couldn't hide it anymore, Val Flat no longer kept the mask. His smile became cold, and at the same time it became miserable and full of pain. I know he has escaped, but he won't be able to escape for long, and I think I have almost got some of the answers I want. Yang Hui leaned closer to Val Flat again and whispered in her ear, it must be hard to be abandoned by the man you love, right? Chapter 1444, Past Events. How could you? I told you, my mental wave is not weak. Yang Hui stood up straight and looked down at Val Flat. I am a pure-blooded reformer, and I am very good at sensing people's emotions and hearts. Yang Hui almost understood what the sadness and love hidden in the arrogance and invincibility when he first came into contact with poor Zelda was. From the beginning, after Amandala escaped from Parada, he came to Set to hide. Although it is unknown how he escaped the eyes of the 21st and 20th fleets, the mental wave residues in Val Flat's room are enough to show that Amandala stayed in this room, and not long ago, otherwise the mental wave residues should have disappeared, and at the same time, he used some special means or channels to escape from Sat. Val Flat, who stayed behind, had been hiding his relationship with Amandara and helping to conceal his whereabouts. This shows that the relationship between Val Flat and Amandara is not just a simple business cooperation. Then, Yang Hui deliberately provoked Val Flat without any evidence. Val Flat's emotions were full of sadness and love. While hating him, he also cared about him wholeheartedly. This was exactly the same emotion that Yang Hui had noticed when he first met poor Zelda. Combined with the fact that Amandara had an unimaginable face and status in front of the regular army of Punta Cana. Although there was no evidence, Yang Hui had already guessed the relationship between poor Zelda and Amandara. You are such a monster. Val Flat glared at Yang Hui, gnashing his teeth and saying unwillingly, thank you for the compliment. Yang Hui accepted it with pleasure. To get such an evaluation from the enemy, what else could it be but a compliment? Take him away. Contact Bright. Planet Devourer is ready to blow up Sart. Understood. Wait. What? Is there anything you want to say? This is your last chance. Yang Hui said to Val Flat. Let Sart go. I can tell you everything I know. Val Flat finally chose Sart, which she had always regarded as her home, in the choice question of choosing between two options. Anyway, for so many years, her love has never been responded to. It was just her own willingness. That woman should be the same, right? After getting a satisfactory answer, Yang Hui waved his hand and asked the guards who came in to withdraw, and guarded the door to prevent anyone from entering. Colonel Yang Hui, you should stay too. After all, it is related to the biggest secret of Punta Cana. Seeing that Daba was hesitant to speak, Yang Hui directly asked him to stay. As a representative of Punta Cana, he had the right to know. Thank you very much. Yang Hui asked Daba not to care too much, and then sat down opposite Val Flat again. Ask, what do you want to know? Why don't you tell me what you know first? Yang Hui raised his hand and asked Val Flat to tell him everything that happened first. Anyway, all he had was speculation and no substantial evidence. I know. Then, Val Flat told Yang Hui about his relationship with Amandara Commandera and Amandara Commandera's secret. What? Amandara is the real poor Zelda. After hearing this, Daba exclaimed, his eyes full of disbelief. That's right. The current poor Zelda is Mian Kuhuasha, a former member of the Knights Templar of the Yamen royal family. She and I are rivals in love and comrades in arms. We were both members of the Knights Templar back then. It was with our help that Amandala successfully overthrew the rule of the Yamen royal family. Since then, Mian has stood in front of the stage as Amandala's shadow dancer. He hides behind the scenes to control the entire Punta Kona, and I serve as another line to handle political and military affairs for Amandala on Satstar, which are not convenient for him to handle. Wait? If it was you who overthrew the Yamen royal family back then, you are now very young, right? Volume. Flat touched his delicate face. There was no pride in eternal youth, but endless sadness. Every woman hopes for eternal youth, but who knows what the price of eternal youth is? The consequence of eternal youth, how sad and lonely is it? Go on. Yang Hui didn't care about Val Flat's mood. Self-pity or discouragement were not as important as the information she knew. What a ruthless man. Val Flat chuckled and teased Yang Hui, but was met with a cold look. Val Flat didn't dare to be naughty anymore and continued, Mian, and Amandara. No, let's call him Poseidor. The reason why the three of us can stay young forever is because of the bioenergy conversion system he developed. It is a technology that can absorb bioenergy and convert it into physical energy. This technology can not only give people eternal life, but also control human spirits through biosensors. So that's it. Is this how his mental waves come from? That's not surprising. Yang Hui finally understood that Amandara Commandera was not the special race he was worried about, nor was he an alien monster, nor was he in collusion with the Knights or the Temple of Slaughter. He just devoured the vitality of others to maintain his immortality while also eating the mental waves of those sacrifices. In this way, he is not afraid. Mental waves are not so delicious. Wanting to devour other people's mental waves and transform them into his own is something that Yang Hui dare not try easily. If it is not handled properly, the least he will suffer from is split personality, mental illness, and the worst is brain death. Such a huge mental wave, as long as he is not born with it, it will be easy to deal with. You are eating people. Daba's focus is on extracting the lives of others to make himself immortal. How cruel is this? It is an evil act that he absolutely cannot accept and forgive. Of course I know, Mian knows, and Poseidor knows. Val Flat laughed self-deprecatingly, but do you think Mian and I have a choice? This. Val Flat said it very clearly just now. The bioenergy conversion system can not only absorb the vitality of others for its own use, but also control the minds of others. Then you are now. Daba is worried that Val Flat is still under the mental control of Amandala Commandera. In this way, isn't everything that is happening now known to Amandala Commandera? Val Flat shook his head and said to Daba, don't worry. Ever since the Sard planet was occupied by Mr. Yang Hui and his men, poor Zelda has lost her mental control over me. You should have some technology that can block mental waves, right? Yes. Yang Hui nodded in agreement. That's good. Daba also breathed a sigh of relief. Then what about the fake poor Zelda? She doesn't look like a shadow dancer. Her thoughts can't escape my induction. Yang Hui asked Val Flat. When he came into contact with the fake poor Zelda, he clearly sensed that the other party was sure that she was poor Zelda. Mian. It's been too long. She has lost herself and thinks she is poor Zelda herself. Tears welled up in Val Flat's eyes. Although they were rivals in love, they were also comrades and good friends. I understand. Sir Yang Hui, I have a request. As long as you can promise me, I promise that Sard Star will never do anything against your will again, and I will be willing to become a part of your side. Val Flat saw Yang Hui getting up and preparing to leave, and asked anxiously. Go ahead. You should attack the capital next, right? Please take me with you, I want to. Send Mian off for the last time. You should stay here at ease. I have another very important piece of information. Poor Zelda is at the end of his rope, and he knows that Mian can't hold on any longer, so he found a new container and prepared to make a new puppet, which will also become a hostage to hinder your side. Covers an alibi, right? Chapter 1445, Rita's Psychological Hint, National Day Extra Update. Haven't we arrived yet? Deba, calm down. Did Val flat say that? We still have a chance. That's right, Deba. Colonel Yang Hui and the others will take action. Nothing will happen. Dreddy Cruz was on her way to the capital of Punta Cana. Because she provided relevant information about Quezon-Alibi and knew the weakness of Amandara Comandera, Yang Hui agreed to her request and took her to the capital of Punta Cana to put an end to the war between Punta Cana and the Earth Federation Army. After learning that Quezon-Alibi was in danger, Daba became restless after boarding the ship. After a few minutes, he asked how long it would take to reach the destination. His companions could only comfort him helplessly. The ones who cared about Daba the most were naturally his two confidants. And Lacey stayed by Daba's side almost all the time, fearing that he would do something impulsive. And they were also disappointed. After all, everyone on the Drestriga could see their feelings for Daba, but Daba only regarded them as friends and companions, and never had any other thoughts. If or Lacey were in danger, Daba would do everything he could to save them, but he would not be in a state of anxiety like he is now. I know, but Daba, it's still 2 days before we arrive at the capital, and there's no point in being anxious. Lacey said. I can. You can't. Interrupted Daba and said, your new machine can't be used now. Colonel Yang Hui personally brought people to help strengthen your new machine. It will be at least the day after tomorrow before it can be used. Don't you still have the original machine? I'm using your machine now, Daba. Said to Daba. After Lacey was brought back, was stimulated by Lacey. The two were rivals in love, and neither wanted to lose to the other, so also started to drive Miz, and the machine was naturally Daba's old machine. Doesn't have Daba's driving skills. In order for him to drive this machine smoothly, the machine's OS may have been adjusted, which is very different from the OS when Daba was driving it. If Daba drives the old machine again, it will be a problem whether he can move smoothly. I can. Okay, Daba, calm down. At this time, Rita Bernal, who was still wearing a driving suit, came over with a helmet. She had just finished her patrol mission and returned to the ship. She happened to meet Daba, who was in an anxious state. Rita. You can't do anything now. Even if you can drive the machine to attack, what can you do? Can you penetrate the direction of Punta Cana and kill Pacerta by yourself? Do you know where Quezon-Alibi is? And she treats you as an enemy now. Can you guarantee to rescue her without hurting her? A number of questions were thrown at Daba's face, like countless sharp arrows piercing his heart. He knelt on the ground in frustration, holding his head in his hands in grief. That's right. I can't do anything. I couldn't do it back then. I can't do it now. Daba. Are you okay? Rita. You've gone too far. And Lacey hoped that Rita Bernal could comfort Daba and calm his anxiety, but who knew that Rita Bernal would directly and fiercely stab Daba a few times, turning his anxiety into a frustrated state, and even his pupils began to sag. Rita Bernal ignored and Lacey's reproaches, but walked straight to Daba and put a hand on his shoulder. The soft spiritual wave warmed Daba's cold heart along the place where the two touched. So, don't worry alone. Although we haven't met Calzin, your business is our business. We are companions. We will help you, Daba. Rita. I'm sorry. Daba's eyes gradually recovered under the influence of Rita Bernal's mental wave. He shook his head and stood up to apologize to Rita Bernal, and Lacey beside him. I made you worry. I was too anxious. Yet, it's good to recover. If Daba is too disappointed, be careful that and Lacey will fall in love with someone else, Rita Bernal joked. After all, the lost Daba has no attractive charm. Rita. No way. And Lacey yelled with red faces. Ahoha. Daba scratched his hair in embarrassment. He certainly knew what and Lacey felt for him. He was not a wooden man. It's just that his heart had long been with Quezon-Alibi, and he hadn't found Quezon-Alibi, so he didn't respond to their feelings. Okay, the matter is settled. I'll leave first. Daba, if you are still anxious, you can go to the simulation training cabin to vent. I recommend Brother Yang Hui as your opponent. It's very useful. Thank you. Daba's mouth twitched. Finding Yang Hui as an opponent for simulation training is not venting, but being vented. But the simulation training cabin, is a good suggestion. Thank you, Rita. It's a small matter. Rita Bernal patted Daba on the shoulder twice again, then put her hands behind her head, humming a little tune and skipping away. Jonah Bishuda, who was on patrol with her, hurriedly chased after her. When he passed by Daba, he also gave him a look of affirmation and encouragement. Did you use psychological hints on Daba? Jonah Bishuda, who caught up with her, whispered in Rita Bernal's ear. Mental waves do have a certain infectious power, but Rita Bernal is not a specialized NT for infection. Her mental waves can only soothe a person. It is absolutely impossible to change a person's mood so drastically so quickly, so. What do you think? Rita Bernal winked playfully. Oh. Jonah Bisuda covered his face helplessly. Is there any need to guess? He must have used it. He is the one who knows best what effect psychological suggestion can have. Why does Jonah Bisuda know best? Because after Rita Bernal successfully promoted to an A-class pilot, the awakened talent was psychological suggestion. At first, Rita Bernal had little control over this power, so, as best friends, Jonah Basuda and Michelle Luo volunteered to help Rita Bernal control her abilities, and then, under psychological suggestion, Jonah Basuda and Michelle Luo's underwear was pulled off, leaving a lot of black history, which almost made the two of them break up with Rita Bernal. Why almost? Nonsense. Of course, their dark history is known to Rita Bernal. Chapter 1446 True Self, Friend, National Day Extra 2. On the way to the capital of Punta Cana, there were no accidents, no ambushes, and no patrols. Drasliga and White Fortress once again arrived in front of the capital of Punta Cana. This time, there was no undeclared war, and no shameless sneak attacks. The Punta Cana side set up a rigorous formation and waited for the signal to start the war. Colonel Yang Hui. Sir. Not to mention the newcomers such as Sanai Graywall and Renault Harding, even veterans such as Brand who have experienced hundreds of battles have never encountered such a situation. This should be a situation that would only appear on the ancient battlefield thousands of years ago, right? They have set up a formation and are waiting to come. What? They still need to perform a show of courtesy before force? Ding ding ding. Colonel Yang Hui, Captain, communication request from the Punta Cana side. Look, the courtesy has come. Connect it. Yang Hui said to Leon, and then gave a look to Sanai Graywall and Brad. The two of them understood and immediately activated the secret communication channel to remind everyone to be careful and alert, and readjusted the formation. They were not so stupid that they would really believe that all the deployments of the other party were in front of them just because the other party was posing for a decisive battle. The information that Amandala Commandala was the real Porzelda had been uploaded to the central database, so everyone knew that Amandala Commandala was the real controller of Punta Cana. They would not think too highly of the character and sentiment of the Death Merchant. On this side, Punta Cana's communication request was also connected, and the one who appeared on the screen was Porzelda. No, the fake Porzelda, Mianku Huasha. Traveler from another world, we meet again. So what? What do you want to say? Yang Hui didn't intend to waste time with this fake Porzelda, so he got straight to the point. We can cooperate. Cooperation? Yang Hui smiled, and then his eyes became sharp. Do you have the final say? I am Porzelda, the supreme ruler of Punta Cana. Let the real thing talk to me. You are not qualified to negotiate with me. Yang Hui interrupted Mianku Huasha directly. He knew that Mianku Huasha was now proposing cooperation with him, and he must have been instructed by the manipulator behind the scenes, but as Yang Hui said, his current position represents the entire Earth Federation army and the Promise Caller. Mianku Huasha is a shadow dancer and is not qualified to talk to Yang Hui on an equal footing. I am Porzelda. I'll still call you Amandala. What? Are you still planning to hide? Yang Hui ignored Mianku Huasha who was refuting him, and spoke directly to the screen. Ding. Mianku Huasha was about to say something, but there was an extra piece on the screen of the communication channel, and the two people became three people. The real Porzelda, Amandala Commandala, appeared on the screen. However, at this time, he had changed his previous image of a middle-aged uncle with sunglasses, and his thick beard disappeared. His green hair also turned into smooth white hair, and his face was handsome and strange. We meet again, should I say this? Mr. Yang Hui. Amandala Commandala greeted Yang Hui with a gloomy smile on his face. I guess so. Yang Hui shrugged and asked directly, Do you plan to cooperate? Yes, I can give you all of Punta Cana and put it under your rule, but you must meet my requirements. Tell me. Yang Hui asked Amandala indifferently, and at the same time made a secret gesture to Sanigre. Both sides share all technologies. I refuse. Pentacona is not worth the price. I'll give you a chance to start over. Yang Hui interrupted Amandala before he finished listening. Mr. Yang Hui, you are not sincere. I know your technology is very powerful, but you have to be clear that the Pentacona army that came to the solar system this time is only a very small part. There are several times more fleets in the local galaxy, and I also have the decisive weapons to destroy planets. If all of them come to the solar system, can you stop them? Continue. Yang Hui asked Amandala to continue the performance. Anyway, he also needed a little time to confirm one thing, but this attitude was a wavering in opportunity in Amandala's eyes. If we can reach a cooperation, you can have these forces immediately, and you don't have to spend a single soldier. It's a very cost-effective deal. First of all, your army is in a distant alien galaxy. It will take a long time for these troops to come to the solar system, right? Otherwise, how could you bring so few people here? Whether it is cooperation or hostility, this is not a problem that needs to be worried about in a short period of time. I have plenty of time to prepare, and when they come, it probably won't be a big problem. Secondly, halfway through his speech, Yang Hui glanced at Sanigre, and after seeing her nod, he continued, not to mention the rebels, there's more than one force within the Punta Cana regular army, right? For example, Kiwazaloa, he wants to rebel and ascend the throne himself. How can you make them listen to you? It seems that I have to show some sincerity. Amandala knew that Yang Hui was not a reckless man who commanded the battle, and was not so easy to deal with. He immediately saw the trap hidden in the cooperation, but he was not unprepared. All the regular army members use biosensors. I can control their minds through biosensors. For example, the people in front of you now are all under my mental control. Whatever I ask them to do, they will do it without hesitation, even if they die. Well, let me see how many people die. Well, a few are not enough. Let me see your mental control with 1,000 people first. Yang Hui said to Amandala. The small arrangement just now was a mistake. Yang Hui just asked Sanigre to turn on the public frequency. The purpose was to let the regular army of Punta Cana hear that they might be mentally controlled, so as to cause chaos on the other side. As a result, all the people on the other side had been controlled by Amandala, and this move was meaningless. Sir Yang Hui, can the meaningless joke stop here? Amandala's face darkened. He knew that Yang Hui was playing a trick on him. Did you joke with me first? Yang Hui asked Amandala. Really? It seems that we can't cooperate. Did I refuse at the beginning? Don't you understand human language? Yang Hui looked at Amandala with a playful face and told him the truth. I was just playing a trick on you. Ha. After a moment of silence, Amandala covered his face and laughed. He laughed crazily and arrogantly. Very good. Great. It's been a long time since anyone talked to me like this. Congratulations, Sir Yang Hui, you have successfully angered me. Get ready to meet your demise. Just relying on the pile of puppets in your hand. Yang Hui asked with a sneer. Not to mention the enemy in front of him, even if there were 2 or 3 times more, Yang Hui would not take it seriously. Numbers were never a threat in front of him. No, Sir Yang Hui, let me introduce you to 2 new friends I made. Ding 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 ding. Colonel Yang Hui. Captain. The dimensional distortion in the space on both sides has increased dramatically, several times more than before. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 1447, Zago Tribe. Night appears. In the space not far from the sides of Drestriga and White Fortress, 2 beams of light suddenly fell, one red and one blue, echoing each other from afar. As the beams of light fell, there were roars coming from inside, shrill and cruel, followed by a dense mass of huge flying insects like a vast ocean, with thin wings making a buzzing sound, 4 forelimbs resembling sharp sickles, and the clawed mouthparts trembling, filled with a desire to tear the prey into pieces. Comparison of the central database. Zago tribes, sickle dragonfly. The number has exceeded 10,000. Leon reported in panic. What could it be? Sanai Grewale's pupils shrank, and she looked at Yang Hui fiercely. At this time, Yang Hui's face was also quite ugly. He guessed that if a Mandara commander dared to put on a decisive battle, he must have prepared a backup plan. Even if he did not collude with other forces to attack Dreki crews, he would mobilize more troops from the local star system. He never expected that it was the Zago tribe. A Mandara commander actually got in touch with the Temple of Killing. A new high-energy reaction appeared behind the scythe dragonfly. It's the questioner. And several extremely high-energy reactions appeared on the left and right. There is no corresponding data in the database. With the changes in the radar detection system, Leon reported one after another. Her voice became more and more trembling, and her emotions became more and more terrified. Projected on the screen. Yang Hui shouted immediately. Yes. The screen projected optical images from both sides. Countless sickle dragonflies were densely packed, dyeing the deep dark universe with a large area of gray. As the optical image gradually enlarged, the cluster of questioners behind the sickle dragonflies could be seen clearly. This time, it was not a melee double-arm machine and a long-range heavy artillery machine separated, but a comprehensive machine with thick arms and 2 heavy artillery. And the things that appeared after the questioners gradually dimmed as the light of the light column gradually dimmed. They were several creatures like meatballs, with sharp mouthparts circling around the front of the meatball. There were no eyes or wings, only a large number of spiked artillery stabs from the flesh and blood. The dense scarlet barbs on the artillery were terrifying, and at the bottom of the meatball, there were hundreds of flesh tentacles swaying. In the center of several unknown meatballs, there were 2 semi-mechanical creatures, one red and one blue. The red one carried a heavy sword on his shoulder, and the blue one put his hands on the hilts on both sides of his waist, one wild and one elegant. Owner, Knight. At this moment, Yang Hui's face was also terribly gloomy. He didn't expect that he had blocked all ways to unlock the EOS subspace, but the other party still found another way to break through. This is the friend I want to introduce to you, Mr. Yang Hui. Do you like it? Seeing Yang Hui's gloomy face, Amandala finally laughed. He finally tore off Yang Hui's calmness and ease. Captain Mitsuha, all MIS units shrink their defense. Bright, immediately activate the Macros attack, all weapons unlocked, including the Dimension Devourer. Target the Overlord, and destroy them as soon as possible. Understood. XN Leon. Immediately ask for help from all fleets closest to us. Now. Immediately. Understood. Yang Hui is very confident in himself, but he is just confident, not conceited. In a one-on-one fight, he is 100% confident that he can kill the knights. Even if there are 2 knights, there is still Graham and Yulin. Char, Amuro, and Kamru all have the strength to fight against the knights. Even if they cannot kill them, they can hold them off. But now, the Zago tribe, a cosmic insect race named for destruction and devouring, is born to evolve at a high speed in order to destroy civilization. Sickle dragonfly is the main insect of the Air Force. The sickle on its forelimbs is extremely sharp. With the appearance of the king bug, the sharp limbs and ferocious mouthparts of the net bug are very terrible weapons. Even Dawn Ersterlin, creation, fused with a super alloy Uzi is unwilling to be hit. Moreover, the net bug has a special terrible ability, reproduction. It is comparable to the size of an asteroid, but it is not all flesh and blood. The internal space is very large. It carries countless eggs. The eggs can be hatched into various Zago zergs as needed. The hatched eggs grow very fast and can grow into adults in 5 minutes at most, with terrible combat power. There is another point, which is also the most important point, which makes Yang Hui not hesitate to lift the ban on Dimension Devourer, to eliminate the king bug as soon as possible, reproductive ability. That's right, the king bug's body is not only a warehouse for eggs, but it can also quickly produce eggs. In other words, the Zago tribe cannot be completely eliminated unless the king bug dies. Therefore, in the battlefield, Yang Hui did not dare to hold back, nor did he dare to take any chances. He did not care about the communication and ran to the hangar at the fastest speed, boarded his own machine and attacked Yang Hui. How is the situation? At this time, the phantoms of Rebel and Wang appeared beside him. They had received Leon's request for help. They did not bother to use conventional communication methods and directly entered the Siegfried network to contact Yang Hui. It hasn't started yet, but it's not optimistic. The 20th and 21st fleets should be able to arrive to support as soon as possible, but it's not enough. Yang Hui said with a heavy face. I have sent a message to Hammond. The 7th and 8th fleets can support you. It's not enough. At least 2 fleets are needed. Who can transfer the ace? Yang Hui asked. This battle cannot be won by numbers alone. Natal just replied that the Promise can provide support. The Promise Corps is short of manpower. It is not that Pentacona needs to send all its troops there urgently. For example, the garrison of the Federation Army headquarters cannot be moved, and the garrison of Jilcuston cannot be moved. The garrisons of various places may be mobilized, but they also have important tasks to perform and cannot be mobilized at will. Otherwise, even if this battle is won, the Earth sphere, which has finally stabilized, will fall into chaos again. Move Cheyenne and Victor's fleets here as well. Cruz should still be in the homeland of the Zanskar Empire. Let him come too. But Zanskar. Send out the homeland. Homeland. Emperor X2 and Rebel were stunned for a moment. That was their last hidden trump card. It was decided from the beginning of the mission that it must not be used unless it was absolutely necessary. It was also their ultimate reliance that they were not afraid of even against the whole world. That's right, send out, homeland. Now is not the time to hide your weakness. Understood. X2 Wang and Rebel were silent for a moment, nodded solemnly, and conveyed Yang Hui's orders one by one. After the communication ended, the shadows of Wang and Rebel disappeared beside Yang Hui, and at the same time, Dawn Ersterlin, creation, also came to the catapult deck. The work of wisdom? You won this time, but only this time. Yang Hui smiled gloomily. He didn't expect that he had to reveal his trump card before he had a clear grasp of the opponent's situation. He secretly sighed that the calculations of Wisdom Knight were insidious, but admitting defeat this time meant that Yang Hui would not let it win a second time. Colonel Yang Hui, you can attack. Understood. Dawn Ersterlin, creation, Yang Hui, attack. Chapter 1448, The Signal for War. Brad is great. It's the right choice to put me in this position. Considering that there might be ambushes around, Sanai Greywall and Brad ordered the MIS troops on the left and right wings to slowly disperse and explore and guard the 2 sides and the rear at Yang Hui's signal. The right wing was exactly the direction Graham was heading, and it was also the first person to face the Zago tribe in the blue night. Hey, Mr. Graham, this is not the time to get excited, right? Aggie St. Claus on the side complained. At this time, he was already sweating profusely. The number of the densely packed, scythe dragonflies, like an ocean has exceeded 50,000, right? Not to mention the thousands of questioner machines behind the scythe dragonflies, and this time it's really dangerous. Who teamed up with Aggie St. Claus, felt fear of fighting for the first time after joining Dressliga. Not only was the scythe dragonflies, with unknown combat power and huge numbers, but the main fear came from the king insects in the rear and the knights he saw for the first time. Especially the knight. Even if they were far away, they could still feel the suffocating and deadly aura from it. That feeling, if they just met it, they would die, definitely die. This feeling was not only shared by Huso and Aggie St. Claus, but also by all the members of Drestriga, and the members of the Londo Bell team. Even Kentetsu, Ryan Amanego, Kato Jishi, and even the symbol of courage, the Lion King Kai, could not help but tremble at this moment, and felt the emotion called fear. Hey, Kai, I haven't heard you say that. Can we really deal with this kind of enemy? Soldat J and Looney Cardiff Lion King, members of the old GGG, joined Draggy Cruz's combat forces after being rescued. After joining, they also participated in many battles, such as the infiltration of the Zanskar Empire, the attack on the Angel Ring, and the suppression of the Pallida Star. They have also faced countless enemies and participated in the World Salvation War, but this kind of scene is really the first time they have encountered it. This kind of situation is not only at an absolute disadvantage in numbers, but also has more than 1 or 2 powerful enemies. Not to mention, whether it is the Overlord or the Knight, They all exude a deadly sense of oppression that makes them afraid. Don't be afraid, you retreat, guard around, Drestriga, and White Fortress, and leave the rest to us. Graham smiled heartily, and his infectious confidence also reduced the tension and fear in everyone's hearts. Mr. Graham, don't underestimate us. No matter how powerful the enemy is, we have the courage to defeat them. Lion King Kai said excitedly. Haha, I never doubt your courage, especially you, Kai, but orders are orders, retreat. Graham laughed and said seriously to Lion King Kai and everyone else. It is good to have courage, but it is reckless to fail to distinguish the difference between the enemy and ourselves. In the past, Lion King Kai and his men risked their lives to fight because they were the only ones who could do it, but now, they have powerful allies, and they don't need unnecessary sacrifices to win. But, Mr. Graham, what about you? Tian Heima asked Graham worriedly. As for me, of course I'll stay here. Graham laughed excitedly. I've been waiting for it for a long time, Knight. Mr. Graham. Okay, don't be nervous, I won't go and die. Graham said to everyone. Knight was originally an important target he was responsible for, just like Yang Hui drove Dawn Ersterlin, Creation, to attack and then went to the other side of the defense line. As the strongest combat force of the Promise Corps, while enjoying rights and status, he also had to shoulder heavy responsibilities to resist the most powerful enemies, and I'm not alone. The next second, Amuro and Camus drove their own machines and, Flagabskneten, cut, side by side to face the countless troops together. Everyone, the message for help has been sent out. Just hold on for 5 minutes and the first batch of reinforcements will arrive. Amuro said to everyone. Reinforcements? Great. If they only rely on draggy crews, they really don't know how to resist such a terrible army, and they can't retreat. Once they retreat, these enemies will be like wild horses that can't be restrained. Once they can't be restrained, it will be a huge disaster for the Earth. You are the only ones coming. Graham asked. Well, Madam, Char, Lala and follow the boss to guard the other side, Camus and I will follow you to guard this side, and Rita will be in charge of the Punta Cana regular army in front. Amuro said to Graham. Rita's pressure is a bit high. Graham said that Rita Bernal has not fully adapted to Phoenix Flug, flying. If no one helps her share the pressure, she will suffer from serious assimilation. Not only Rita, but also others. For now, we just need to hold off the attacks from 3 sides. Amuro said this to everyone, telling them that it would not be easy for them to shrink their defense. It was impossible for Yang Hui to completely hold off the defense of the 2 wings of the army. They also needed to resist the enemies that slipped through, as well as the Punta Cana regular army in front. Okay, everyone, retreat and complete your mission. Amuro said to Aggie St. Claus and others. Understood. X and everyone, please be sure to pay attention to safety. Pay attention to safety. Graham, Amuro and Camus laughed and shook their heads. In this kind of battle, no one dared to say that they could pay attention to their own safety. Amuro, Camus, the enemy is coming. Let's go. As Aggie St. Claus and others retreated, the knights, on both sides clenched their swords, and pointed the sharp blades at Dreslija and White Fortress. This was a signal to start a war. The manic, sickle dragonfly, turned into a wave, rolling one after another, forming a raging wave and rushing towards Draggy crews. The questioner machine behind the sickle dragonfly also opened fire, and the heavy artillery behind it roared fiercely. Sorry. This road is blocked. The fiery red fighting spirit spread from the gap in the body of Flagabskneten, cut, and wrapped around the blade in his hand. At the same time, the purple-black wormhole energy stretched from the hilt to 50 kilometers away, absorbing the fighting spirit of the flame and presenting a dark red thin blade. School. Dongfang Bubei. Ghost Fire Death Slash. Chapter 1449 no longer works. Char. Lala. Protect both sides. Yulin, Brad, open the way. Understood. X3 As soon as the words fell, the Super GN Dragoon detached from all parts of the Nightingale transfer. As Lala Singh closed her eyes, a powerful mental wave spread out from the AMI induction, and the crystal-like components all over the body flashed with dazzling brilliance. Colonel. I see. The next second, all the situations of the enemy were clearly seen in Char's mind. Because of this, Char did not hesitate at all. His index finger kept pulling the trigger. All the weapons around him fired at the same time, firing continuously. He mysteriously disappeared from the muzzle and suddenly appeared in front of the enemy, piercing through it before it could react. 1, 2, 3. Each attack could cover more than a dozen sickle dragonflies. Yulin got it. At the same time, Lala Xin shared the results of her wide-range sensing with Yulin through mental waves. The full moon behind Luna Division had disappeared at some point. This time, Yulin did not fire at random, but raised the long-range beam rifle in her hand, locked a certain direction, and then pulled the trigger. The purple-black wormhole ray shot out, refracting and splitting the full moon dust scattered around. One shot turned into tens of thousands of shots, and a very thin line was used to weave an airtight and huge net. Splitting is not creation. After each split, the power of the wormhole ray will be reduced by half. After a large number of splits, the power of the wormhole ray has been weakened to the point that it cannot penetrate the shell of sickle dragonfly. However, this was not a problem for Yulin at all, because the sickle dragonfly was not covered with a solid carapace all over its body. The joints, eyes, mouth parts, where the limbs were connected were all fatal weaknesses without the protection of the carapace, and these weaknesses were pierced by thin threads, hanging them all up on the huge net. Now, Brad understood. Super heavy quantum reaction cannon fire. After receiving Yang Hui's instructions, the super heavy quantum reaction cannon in the hands of the White Fortress roared, and the purple-red energy torrent surged. The spiral beam hit the center of the huge net, twisting the large net composed of wormhole rays toward the center, and rammed to the back in a rotating posture, covering more sickle dragonflies in it, and even netting a lot of questioners in the back, and went straight to a king insect. Hiss. Seeing the energy torrent and the big net covering itself, the king bug suddenly let out a shrill roar. The sound did not need to be transmitted through the air, but rang in the minds of everyone in the audience. Even Yang Hui and Yulin, who had strong mental waves, could not help but look uncomfortable. Others were holding their heads in pain and could not move. If they had not brought mental wave shielding devices for precaution, this roar would have exploded their brains. Before the energy torrent hit the king bug, the spiked arthropods on its body flashed scarlet light, and they closed in front one by one, spliced together, and combined into a shield to block the energy torrent. As the scarlet light became brighter and brighter, the mental wave became a substantial weapon covering the shield. Boom! The next second, the energy torrent hit the shield. The mighty energy devoured the scarlet mist and tore the shield made of spiked limbs. It was broken quickly and regenerated at a very fast speed. The large net woven by wormhole rays covered it. The silk threads were tightly tied, cutting dense scars on the shield, but it could not be stored and could only stay on the surface. 2 or 3 seconds later, the energy torrent began to decline. At the last moment, the shield was broken, and a huge gap was blasted in the center, just revealing the hideous mouth parts. However, the last remaining energy was very thin and could not cause any harm to the king insect. Damn it! It was blocked. Seeing this scene, the others cursed with reluctance and regret, and were also very horrified. So far, they have never seen any existence that can block the bombardment of the super heavy quantum reaction cannon by itself. But in the next second of their regret, a thing that was only the size of dust for the king insect followed the channel opened by the super heavy quantum reaction cannon and flew into the mouth parts of the king insect smoothly before the shield was completely closed. But 1 second later, an invisible energy shock wave came from the inside of the king worm, blowing away the questioner and the scythe dragonfly, who were close to the king worm. From the center of the king worm, a purple-black space wormhole erupted. The space was shattered, and the electromagnetic storm tore everything around it, and then it was swallowed up by the huge mouth from the abyss. In just a few seconds, only a little flesh and blood skin of the king worm was left floating in the universe. Dimension Devourer is very effective. King worm number 1 is definitely eliminated. Oh. XN, don't get excited. Calm down. The battle is not over yet. Brad was very satisfied with the result. Dimension Devourer is the most powerful weapon currently in the hands of the Promise Legion. If even Dimension Devourer can't work, then don't even think about completing this mission. Moreover, the battle is not over yet. There are several more king insects like this. Missile launchers 1 to 10 fire reaction bombs, targeting areas K21 to 045, to relieve pressure on General Graham. Secondary guns and missile launchers fire all bombs, targeting areas A01 to F90. Don't be outflanked by the enemy. Understood. XN Super Heavy Quantum Reaction Cannon recharged. The second, Dimension Devourer, is ready. Understood. XN Captain. The enemy's actions have changed. What? Brad immediately looked at the battle map, and the sickle dragonflies that had originally gathered together began to disperse, from a complete ocean to countless water droplets, occupying an increasingly wider range, not only surrounding Drestriga and White Fortress from all directions, but also leaving enough safety distance to ensure that the firepower coverage of White Fortress and Drestriga could not achieve maximum results. The Overlord also began to move. The tentacles under its body were like countless hands and feet, paddling in the ocean of the universe. Although it was as slow as a drowning person, they did disperse and move in different directions, intending to surround the Drestriga and the White Fortress from all directions like the Scythe Dragonfly and the Questioner. Damn it, are you planning to completely surround us with numbers? Brad saw the other party's plan and gritted his teeth, which also proved that these bugs were not just bugs, but bugs with high intelligence. Captain. The Dimension Devourer is ready. The Super Heavy Quantum Reaction Cannon is recharging 23% again, and it is expected to be fully charged in 3 minutes. The cooling system is running at full capacity. The Super Heavy Quantum Reaction Cannon will enter the forced cooling program after firing, and the time is 15 minutes. There is no good news, but it is not all bad news, but in the current situation, one piece of bad news is enough to be fatal. The other party was caught off guard just now, but the same method cannot easily kill an Overlord again. Blade. Sir. Please give instructions. Keep the Dimension Devourer, don't use it lightly. Understood. Graham, Yolan, Char, Lala, Amuro, Kamui, Rita, form a circular defense, and form the first line of defense. Yang Hui could think of the problems that Blade could think of, so he immediately changed his combat strategy, from the initial idea of preemptive strike to disrupt the opponent's position, to a solid defense and waiting for reinforcements. The rest of the Miz troops will form the second line of defense inside the circle. Elzim, you will command the second line of defense. Understood. XN. Although the composition was too complicated, no one questioned Yang Hui's order. Even Lady F. Pursuta, who had a bad relationship with Elzim, did this out of absolute trust in Yang Hui during the battle, and they all knew that Elzim was the only one among them who had experience in commanding a large Miz force. Brad, Sanai, keep up the firepower, don't be stingy with any ammunition, hit hard. Understood. X2 everyone, you must stop the opponent's attack. Reinforcements are on the way and will arrive in 10 minutes. Victory will definitely belong to us. Yes. XN. Chapter 1450 Killing each other? No, it's all food. After receiving the order, Graham suppressed the idea of rushing directly to the knight. Although he was eager to fight and eager to fight with a strong to the point of madness, it did not mean that he could not see the situation clearly. The wave dispersed and turned into a wall to wrap up Drestriga and White Fortress. The current position needed him to guard, so it was not the time to be impulsive. Tisk. It turned out to be the defensive battle that I am least good at? Graham cursed unhappily. Flagabskneden, cut, shuttled back and forth between Scythe Dragonfly, controlling the wandering area within a suitable range. There was no explosion or smoke wherever it passed, only the broken Scythe Dragonfly, leaving behind the broken limbs. Flagabskneden, cut, did not have too many weapons. In addition to the 2 emergency beam swords on the shoulders in his hands, there was no long-range weapon of his own. He was still using the 2 multi-mode submachine guns that Yang Hui made for him at a long distance. All large-scale attack methods were derived from the Dongfang Bubei style. However, the moves of Dongfang Bubei style cannot be used lightly. The physical strength and energy consumed by Dongfang Bubei style's moves are greater than that of the Death Star that stares at all targets. Unless it is necessary, it cannot be used lightly. School. Dongfang Bubei. Thousand Hands Flame Bomb. There are too many enemies coming, and Flagabskneden, cut off, is not good at positional warfare. There are too many sickle dragonflies passing by Flagabskneden, cut off, and rushing towards the second line of defense in the rear. Seeing this, Graham stimulated the rich fighting spirit and integrated it into the double guns in his hands, burning the 2 submachine guns red. He pulled the trigger and did not let go. Huge fireballs roared from the muzzles and fell into the sickle dragonfly, that broke through the first line of defense. This is the flame transformed from fighting spirit. No matter how strong the shell of sickled dragonfly is, it can only quickly melt and burn out in this flame. With one move, Banner Apskneden cut temporarily cleared the scythe dragonfly that broke through the defense line, and at the same time threw the two guns in his hands to both sides. 2 or 3 seconds later, a violent explosion occurred. Even the weapons created by Dawn Ersterlin creation could not withstand such a strong fighting spirit. At the same time, Banner Apskneden cut drew out his two swords, turned back and forth left and right, and drew a horizontal line in the area he was guarding. That was the absolute line he drew. All enemies that touched this line were cut to pieces by the invisible sword light in the blink of an eye. So this is the pressure that Brother Yang Hui and the others are facing? It's really terrifying. With Rita Bernal's cry, Phoenix Flug, flying, burst out with a powerful mental wave. The mental wave gathered on the wings behind Phoenix Flug, flying, and stretched out for several kilometers. It was the Phoenix's flaming wings, the flames transformed by mental waves, but each feather condensed by the flames was lifelike. Every time the wings of the flames flapped, they could distort the surrounding space. It was not the change of the air due to the high temperature, but the scorching high temperature had affected the space. Gently flapping, countless feathers condensed by flames shot out and fell into the sickled dragonfly in the sky. The universe instantly turned into a blazing sea of fire. The arc-shaped firewall stood. Any sickled dragonfly that wanted to break through would be burned to ashes in an instant if it touched the flames. Even if an enemy bypassed a firewall and wanted to break through the defense line, they would be caught up by the flaming feathers and then ignited. However, Rita Bernal's condition was not very good at the moment. This was the first time she had such a powerful mental wave, and it was also the first time she had transformed the mental wave into a real flame. Her physical strength and energy were rapidly declining, and it would not be long before they would reach the bottom. Even her whole body was completely covered with emerald crystals, leaving only her head. No, it should be said that the incomplete head was still exposed outside the emerald crystals, because the emerald crystals at the neck had spread up, and even the crystal clusters on her face had pierced the skin. This was the first time that Rita Bernal really faced the pressure that the top ace had to face, and this was why she was unwilling to give up, because she had always wanted to repay her brothers and sisters who saved her, especially Yang Hui, the brother who brought her out of that empty space. But Yang Hui's strength had always been at the top of the promise collar. It was her limit to catch up with Yang Hui. Now she had finally squeezed into the top of the promise collar. Now, even if she was timid, even if she retreated, no one would blame her or be disappointed in her, but she would blame and be disappointed in herself. Rita, back off. At this moment, golden particles gathered around Phoenix Flug, flying, wrapped it, and slowly retreated with it. The majestic golden particles condensed into a Dawn Ersterlin creation at the original location of Phoenix Flug, flying. Yang Hui's shadow also appeared beside Rita Bernal. Brother Yang Hui. I can still. Back off. Don't you listen to me. Yang Hui said reproachfully. He did not blame Rita Bernal for acting impulsively and disrupting his battle plan, but for being brave. War is cruel, but he will not allow Rita Bernal to waste her life on being brave. But 5 minutes, hurry up and recover. Yang Hui said to Rita Bernal. Understood. Rita Bernal knew that she had made a mistake, and also knew that Yang Hui would not allow her to continue to be brave, so she could only bow her head obediently, cancel the outbreak of the mental wave and retreat. As Rita Bernal stopped the outbreak of mental waves, the high wall of flames immediately extinguished, and the wave-like, scythe dragonfly, surged towards Dawn Ersterlin creation, standing in front. At the same time, the emerald green crystal wrapped around Rita Bernal cracked and then shattered. The powerful recovery ability allowed Rita Bernal's wounds to recover quickly, but the driving suit was tattered, and the consumed physical strength and energy could not be recovered immediately. Weakness did exist. Rita Bernal did not dare to relax and took the time to recover. The cloned creation of Dawn Ersterlin creation could only exist for 5 minutes. During these 5 minutes, Yang Hui needed one person to be responsible for the defense zone of 2 people, which consumed a lot of Yang Hui. The earlier the recovery, the earlier the pressure on Yang Hui could be relieved. Moreover, calculating the time, even if Yang Hui could hold on for 5 minutes, There were still more than 3 minutes before the reinforcements could arrive. At this time, Yang Hui used part of his energy to control the clone of Dawn Erstellen creation. The golden particles were sprayed wantonly, condensing countless GN Super Dragoons, blocking the enemies in 2 areas. One person was responsible for 2 areas, blocking the waves. Although some waves leaked through, they were always controlled within a safe range. That's it. In the gap between destroying the enemy, Yang Hui's golden particles had broken through the enemy's blockade, but because of this, his mental wave sensed the rear of the enemy. Pentacona, who was also an enemy, was now fighting a large group of sickle dragonflies. No, it should be said, being hunted. Cooperate with knights? Be friends? Amandala, you are looking for death. But. Chapter 1451, Fierce Attack and Defense, 1. Although the first line of defense could not completely stop the scythe dragonflies, the enemies that could break through the first line of defense were kept under control, allowing the second line of defense to withstand it. Geta. Battle Axe. Puff. Tisk. These monsters are really hard to deal with. Shingata Dragon held a double-edged giant axe and cut several scythe dragonflies in 2. Ryuma couldn't help but curse. Although Shingata Dragon chopped melons and vegetables with a giant axe, with a mighty momentum of one man standing against 10,000 men, Ryuma, as a driver, knew very well how hard the enemy was. Not to mention the flesh and blood of the creatures, even the hard metal machinery could be easily cut off by Shingata Dragon's giant axe at will, but the scythe dragonflies' shell made Ryuma feel blocked, and every time he swung it, he had to do his best to break through their shell protection. Let them see the firepower of Geta, said Che Benkei. Fight with all your strength. Benkei. Ryuma responded to Kirumi Benkei, handing over the main control of Shin Gatoran to Kirumi Benkei. At the same time, Shin Gatoran also raised his arms, and his stretched palms rotated and retracted into his wrists. He reappeared as the small head of Getter 3, and at the same time, 4 blade-like fan blades unfolded on each wrist. Blow them away. Getter Cyclone. As Kirumi Benkei shouted, the fan blades began to rotate at high speed, and a violent whirlwind was set off in the vast universe without any warning. A large number of sickle dragonflies were swept into it, mercilessly flying, rotating, and colliding with each other back and forth. Steel finger iron net. Dozens of steel cables shot out from his wrists, covering the sickle dragonflies, dancing wildly in the whirlwind. Shin Gatoran grabbed all the cables, and then quickly rotated and danced like a whip, making the storm more manic and more destructive. Big Snow Mountain. Collapse. Finally, Che Benkei roared, and the entire storm was gathered together by the cables and thrown fiercely in another direction. A large number of scythe dragonflies collided with each other, and flowers of flesh and blood bloomed. Compared with the wild posture of Gen Gatoran, the Great Demon's fighting style is much simpler. Pulse Kick. The sharp blade popped out from the Great Demon's knee. As the Great Demon charged to the top of the knee, the blade pierced from the side along the gap between the scythe dragonflies' joints and pierced through its brain. Demon Sword. After killing a scythe dragonfly, he immediately drew out the demon sword, turned around in place, and turned into an arc of swordlight to cover all the 4 scythe dragonflies that were besieging him. The 16 front limbs that were flashing with cold light were cut off at the root. At the same time, the Great Demon's other hand grabbed the emblem on his chest and threw it out, circling around the Great Demon, and then flew back to his hand. Great Demon God Boomerang. Wherever the boomerang passed, the faces of the 4 scythe dragonflies were separated from the thin line in the middle, and their heads were cut in half. As an expert in combat, every move and every decision made by Ken Tetsuya was the result of careful consideration, and he planned every bit of his strength in the most appropriate way. Save some energy, Ryoma. Don't fight until you are exhausted. Our mission is to defend and wait for help. Ken Tetsuya reminded Ryoma, but he was also joking. God Hayato, who is also one of the Trinity All-Rounders, is a master of careful calculation and fine control, but Ryoma is a completely wild beast and doesn't know what it means to hold back. Haha, you should take care of yourself, Tetsuya. Get a drill. As soon as the voice fell, the high-speed rotating drill passed from behind the Great Demon God, piercing through 4 or 5 scythe dragonflies who attempted to sneak attack, and at the same time, the real Geta Dragon also came to the side of the Great Demon God and stood back to back with it. Didn't I leave my back to you? Jian Tai also said with a smile, and the great demon god also raised his arms, and turbine-like blades popped out from his wrists. Rotating pressure flying fist. The two fists left their arms, and the fierce flames pushed the two fists to move at high speed. The turbine blades on the wrists rotated, and the powerful penetrating force broke the shell of the sickle dragonfly, and turned the flesh and blood into sauce. But this number is really terrible, and it's also very difficult to deal with. Get array. What a terrible enemy, chest flame. While sighing, the great demon god and the real Get a dragon, back to back, rotated together, and the bright green beams and the red burning flames burst out, sweeping across the surrounding sickle dragonfly. This is just what Yang Hui and his team have missed. Can humans really defeat this kind of enemy? God Hayato and Che Benkei had just recovered from a serious injury. After returning, they had not experienced a large-scale battle. Their understanding of the existence of the Promised Legion, the Temple of Slaughter, the Knights, the Festum, the Zago tribe, etc. was only to the extent of reading the information. Only when they really came into contact with them in person could they feel how difficult and terrifying they were. So Yang Hui and his team decided not to be human anymore. Liu Longma joked, but it was also his admiration for Yang Hui and his team. Since ancient times, there have been countless people who have given up everything to gain power, and Yang Hui and his team are the same. However, unlike most people, Yang Hui and his team had to do so. If they did not give up their human identity to gain power, Liu Longma really could not imagine how such an enemy could be defeated. Haha, we can't fall behind either. Most of the pressure has been borne by them. If we make another mistake, it will be too embarrassing. Che Benkei said with a big laugh. Hold the line. The reinforcements will arrive in 3 minutes. We must hold on. We can't let these bugs threaten the White Fortress and the Drestriga. You don't have to tell me. X3 is indeed a 3-in-1 all-rounder who has been fighting side by side. They are so tacit. Loony. Protect. Ring. Understood. X3 illusion ring. Plus. X4, the golden ring shrank and wrapped around the arms of King Zonfang and King Fengkai. The entire forearm not only rotated at high speed, but also bloomed with pink light. Illusion. Destruction. Flying fist. X4 the four fists attacked fiercely in different directions, smashing countless scythe dragonflies. Anti-intermediate cannon. While King Zonfang and King Fengkai were firing, illusion destruction flying fist, the heavy artillery of King Jetta's arms fired one after another. Before the illusion destruction flying fist returned, it resisted the scythe dragonflies, who tried to take the opportunity to besiege King Zonfang and King Fengkai. Really? What are you going to do without me? Sold it. Jay teased everyone. Thank you so much, Jay. You have always been an indispensable companion. Lion King Kai said excitedly. It's so boring to talk to you. However, Soldat Jay was not happy about Lion King Kai's recognition. Instead, he sighed because his joke didn't work. You are crazy to joke with Kai, a hot-blooded idiot. Looney, the co-pilot of my King Zonya, teased, and then reminded Lion King Kai, 3 o'clock direction, number 3. Understood. Knee steel drill. My King Zonya reacted quickly. As his waist twisted, his legs twitched with afterimages, and the diamond drills on his knees pierced into the bodies of the 3 sickle dragonflies that attacked, and each of them blasted a big hole. Except for Jay, the Yaowen Kai and the Iwang Zonya are really not suitable for this kind of combat environment. GDOGC analyzed calmly. The armaments of Iwang Zonya and the Yaowen Kai are relatively simple, and most of them are close combat and single combat. The most powerful heart-piercing move, Cough, Heaven and Hell, is a super move against a single enemy. It is powerful and consumes a lot of energy. Using it to deal with sickle dragonfly is like using a cannon to hide a mosquito, so it is unnecessary and cannot be used. Don't say discouraging words, Gdao. Looney knew that GDOGC was telling the truth, but now is not the time to say discouraging words. After all, the pressure they face is just a drop in the ocean for Yang Hui and others on the first line of defense. If they can't stop this little enemy, it would be too sorry for them on the first line of defense. That's right, there are still 3 minutes, we must stop them no matter what. Tianhe said. Well, let's go. Okay. X4. Chapter 1452, Fierce Attack and Defense, 2. Oliver. Watch out behind you. What? Swish. After receiving Mabet's warning, Oliver's V2 Gundam number 2 turned around immediately, and then the scythe dragonfly was already close to his face, with its sharp forelimbs raised high, and it was about to fall without giving Oliver any time to think. With a flash of cold light, the scythe dragonfly stopped moving, a thin line appeared in the middle, and then it split in half, revealing the Gundam blaster behind it, and the high-frequency vibration sword in its hand. In the critical moment, it was Junko's Gundam blaster who saved Oliver. Junko. Oliver's mood was a bit complicated. He was happy to see his students and companions grow so much, even surpassing himself, but maybe it was the man's desire to win, and it was a bit difficult to accept being surpassed by others. Not only Junko, but also the other members of the Shrek team, except for the 3 newcomers brought by Oliver, all showed combat power beyond his imagination. The enhanced transformation of the machine only made the machine have stronger performance, but whether these performances can be brought into play is ultimately the pilot who drives them. The old batch of Shrek team members all showed strong individual strength, which was completely different from what Oliver knew. Not only that, but they also had tacit team cooperation. For example, when Junko came to rescue Oliver, the rest of the team not only kept a distance to fill the gap left by Junko's machine, but also took care of the back of Junko's machine and the surroundings of Oliver's machine to prevent sneak attacks during the rescue. Focus, Oliver, the battle is not over yet. Junko taught calmly, regardless of whether Oliver was her former teacher. You have really become stronger. Oliver sighed. Save your sighs until after the battle is won, don't be distracted anymore, and retreat if you can't. Junko said to Oliver mercilessly. To be honest, Oliver and the 3 new members of the Shrek team were not strong to begin with, and they joined Draggy Crew's late. Their strength could not support them to participate in this battle at all, and staying here was already a drag. We are responsible for supporting you, Francesca, Milila, and Juka. We retreat and provide fire support. Oliver is not a person who tries to show off for the sake of face. Knowing that he and the 3 newcomers are lagging behind, he made a prompt decision to give up the main attack position and let stronger people do it. Understood. X3 The 3 newcomers obeyed Oliver's orders. They knew the gap between themselves and their predecessors, not only in their performance in this battle, but also in their daily simulation training. However, no one likes to fall behind, and they have decided to accept more difficult training in their hearts to catch up with their predecessors as soon as possible, and they can't keep falling behind. Lie. S41 area, fire coverage. Elzum has been paying attention to the overall situation of the second line of defense. At present, it is stable. Even if some of the scythe dragonfly are missed, they will be destroyed by the barrage of Drestriga and White Fortress. What he has to do is to maintain this stability until the reinforcements arrive. Don't order me. Lattice F. Pursuito responded unhappily, but his words were not true. R2 fired all its ammunition in the direction indicated by Elzum, and heavy artillery, missiles, and bullets swept through like a storm. K-041 area, the brave police squadron is a bit exhausted, support immediately. Understood. Zenga. Straight ahead, full strength attack. Okay. Ship slasher. Raging wind and waves. Under Elzum's instructions, Grungast Zero swung the heavy ship slasher fiercely, raised it above his head and spun it at high speed, setting off a fierce hurricane, and the sharp blade like a blade cut a large number of sickle dragonflies into pieces. Chid, Artie, don't rush too far ahead. Miss Ryukino, please help. Sorry, I didn't notice it for a while. X2 understood. Ryukinosuke's machine danced gracefully in the universe, and the electromagnetic wheel in his hand flew freely, like a ribbon in the hands of a dancer, beautiful but deadly, easily tearing open the road and taking Kid and Artie's Tsutorge back to the defense line. The Centaur Tsutorge originally did not have any air combat capabilities, let alone in the universe. However, under Yang Hui's transformation, the Centaur added a large number of small nozzles all over its body to adjust its posture in the air and in the universe. The GN particle storage and the high-power thrusters behind it also gave it the ability to soar in the air and wander in the universe. Not only that, Yang Hui combined the characteristics of the multi-legged thrusters behind Ryukinosuke's machine, Camilla, and prepared the ability of Tsutorge to run in the void, greatly enhancing its applicable environment and mobility. In terms of armament, Zadorgo used the Promise Corps standard combined long spear composite weapon, which can be used at long range or close range, and can be disassembled. Under Yang Hui's training, Kid and Artie's driving skills have risen sharply, but they are still teenagers, and it is still a bit difficult for them to understand tactical awareness and strategic awareness too much. In addition, they are also influenced by L, and they do not take war seriously like professional soldiers, so they tend to ignore combat objectives and tasks in battle. At this time, Agarka sped past, and 4 gun blades fired in succession, the sharp blade swung, and bullets and blades left a lot of limbs and sloughs. L. Stop playing, be serious. Ryu Konosaki taught him unhappily. L's driving skills are indeed amazing, but he is too childish. He can rank among the powerful pilots of Dressliga, all thanks to his excellent driving skills, but his collective awareness is really too poor, especially the frequent use of nerves, which is a headache. It was fun at ordinary times, and it was fine in the previous battles, but if he messed up in the current battle, he might not be able to support him in time. Don't worry, Miss Rukino, I know what's going on now. But L is childish, but he has a mature soul in his body. No matter how immature he is, he can see the reality clearly in such a battle and won't mess around. Didn't you see that L's forehead is already covered with cold sweat? If you mess up, I will tell the adults that you will not be allowed to enter the hangar for a month. Rukinosaki was still worried, so he issued a ban to L. Please don't. L promised that he would be obedient. Not letting him touch his beloved radish for a month would be more painful than killing him. Ms. Ryukino, Kid, Artie, move to Area P42, L, move back and forth from Area L21 to Area N76. At this time, Elzim's order came, Takamori, you and L work together, Irem, open the road in the direction of K04, Masaki uses all his strength, Cosmic Nova, and then return. Understood. X6, Ultimate Ray. The entrance of Grungust's hole burst out with tremendous energy, and rays of light shot out, piercing the insect swarm like sharp arrows. The wind demon Sebasta took the opportunity to transform into a flying form, rushed into the road opened for it by Grungust's one style, and came to the center of the insect swarm. Watch me. Cosmic Nova. Chapter 1453, Reinforcements finally arrive, Knights, move. Is it the limit? 5 minutes have passed, and the clones condensed by Dawn Ersterlin, creation, have dissipated. Yang Hui has also consumed a lot of physical strength and energy at this time. Fortunately, Rita Bernal has recovered a little and can support the defense line without collapsing. Yang Hui. Yulin's shadow appeared beside Yang Hui. No problem. Yet, the shadow disappeared, and the two once again focused all their attention on their tasks. The densely packed GN Super Dragoons opened fire one after another. Each barrage could take away countless sickle dragonflies. However, the number of sickle dragonflies was too large. Just as a gap was cleared in the oncoming wave, it was filled in the next second. The fierce firepower coverage could only slow down the speed of the wave, but could not stop the wave completely. In this battle, Yang Hui also collected enough data. The sickle of the scythe dragonfly is enough to easily cut through the shield-type GN Super Dragoon without GN particles, and the carapace is enough to withstand all attacks below the power of the beam cannon. If it weren't for the Dawnbreaker Ersterlin, creation, and other machines that mastered the use of wormhole energy, the first line of defense would not have been able to hold out for so long. Before becoming A-level, the defense line would collapse in 3 minutes at most. The collapse of the second line of defense will only be faster. Everyone present has the strength of an elite or an ace. Fortunately, the scythe dragonfly has a weakness in the joints of its limbs, which can block the enemies that slip through the first line of defense. Ding ding ding. Tisk. The alarm in the cockpit sounded loudly, and a large number of shining light balls appeared on the cockpit screen. They were the heavy artillery of the questioner. The pressure on sickle dragonfly was already very great. At this time, the army of the questioner included the first line of defense within the range of the heavy artillery, which was undoubtedly worse. Even Yang Hui could not completely avoid the heavy artillery of the questioner at this moment. He gathered a large number of shield-type GN Super Dragoons to resist, and also divided his attention to block the charge of sickle dragonfly. Yang Hui not only entered the reformer mode, but zero-time difference calculation also did not stop calculating. According to the results of the calculation, It decided which direction of the enemy should be eliminated first, which artillery fire could be dodged and which needed to be resisted, and how to allocate every bit of physical strength and energy. At the same time, Yang Hui also needed to pay attention to the situation of everyone in the first line of defense, especially the direction where Rita Bernal was. She was the only newcomer who had just awakened and faced the same pressure as everyone else, but this pressure was a bit beyond her tolerance. Once there was danger in the direction where Phoenix flying was, he needed to immediately instruct others or personally provide support. 1 more minute. Yang Hui glanced at the countdown on the lower left of the screen. With their strenuous resistance, 14 minutes of the 15 minutes had passed. Only 1 minute was left for reinforcements to arrive, but this was not a reason for them to relax. The more tense the moment, the more they could not relax. Once they relaxed, it might lead to a global collapse. As time passed by second, a minute that usually passed in the blink of an eye seemed to be as long as a year. As the battle continued, everyone's consumption became greater and greater, and the pressure became greater and greater. Whether the reinforcements could arrive on time was also unknown, and they became more and more nervous. But as the time returned to zero, everyone's hanging hearts were relieved a little, because this is the commander of the 20th Fleet, Hui Ken. Our troops and the 21st Fleet come to support and launch an attack from the K-01 direction. This is the commander of the 8th Fleet, Harmon. Our troops and the 7th Fleet come to support and launch an attack from the A-98 direction. The 7th Fleet will go to suppress the capital of Punta Cana. This is. As the communications came one after another, Sanigriwale and others felt like they were deflated. They felt extremely relieved. The most difficult time was finally over. There were also members of the Londo Bell team. These tough guys who had fought countless battles even had tears in their eyes. They were fighting with the belief of dying on the battlefield. Support? The Londo Bell team had never received support since its establishment. They had to perform the most severe and difficult tasks, most of which were tasks that the Federation Army could let them die to weaken the Londo Bell team, or they would become abandoned and ignored. They subconsciously believed that the so-called reinforcements were just an excuse to boost morale, and there were no reinforcements at all. But when the reinforcements really arrived, they saw the purple-red circles appear through the gaps in the enemy's encirclement, and one MiZ after another, one warship after another, rushed out and launched a fierce attack on the enemy from the outside. For the first time, they felt that everything they insisted on was worth it. This is it. While everyone was excited and happy, they also noticed the way the Promised Legion appeared. They came out from the unknown purple-red circle. Could it be the fold jump that they had only seen in the information? Question mark. Humans really mastered the means of interstellar travel. With the arrival of reinforcements, the pressure on Dreskleja and White Fortress suddenly decreased. The iron barrel-like encirclement was very difficult to break from the inside, but as long as the outside applied force from multiple directions, it would immediately fall apart. At the moment when the Macros-class battleship jumped out of the fold channel, several overlords were hit by a super-heavy quantum reaction cannon. There was no sign and no defense. The shrill screams resounded in everyone's mind, as if thousands of steel needles were stabbing them. It was unbearable. Fortunately, we were prepared in advance, otherwise we would have suffered heavy losses. Heyman shook his head and said thankfully, "Heyman, go support Lita. Lita has reached her limit." Yang Hui's phantom appeared beside Heyman and gave Heyman an order. Understood. Heyman immediately set off, passing through the layers of enemy interception, and after destroying a large number of enemies, he came to the side of Phoenix flying, and fired all his weapons at the same time to stop the incoming wave. Lita, retreat to the second line of defense. Heyman said to Lita. Understood. Don't be unwilling. We were almost as good as you when we first awakened. You can be proud. Harmon had a proud smile that only a queen could have on her face. She comforted and encouraged Rita Bernal in her own way. Yes, Sister Harmon, I'll leave this to you. Don't worry. Rita. Are you okay? And it was not only Harmon who felt that. The members of the original 12th Independent Technical Force affiliated with the Cheyenne Fleet and the Victor Fleet came to the area where Phoenix flying was located under the leadership of Kushima Yang, forming a solid defense line. Christina Mackenzie stood in front of Phoenix flying to protect Phoenix flying from retreating. Brother. Sister. Rita Bernal's eyes were filled with tears. Nothing could make her feel warmer than her brothers and sisters caring about her at the first time. I'm fine. I made everyone worried. Really, Rita, don't be so stubborn next time. That's right. If there's anything, brothers and sisters will take it for you. Yes. The reinforcements arrived, and the pressure faced by Yang Hui and others suddenly eased, but Yang Hui did not relax at all. The more at this time, the easier it is to be careless. The battle is not over yet, and the slightest carelessness will bring a fatal ending, just like now. Bang! Don Ersterlin, creation, once again released a colorful cannon and immediately turned around, holding his hands in the air, and two sharp high-frequency vibration swords condensed in his hands, crossed in front of him. The next second, the giant sword burning with flames fell, and the aftermath of the collision spread out in a ripple shape. Wow! The fake is still quite capable. Remember, I am Flame Knight, Conrad Trapp, and I will kill you. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 1454 Silence is Golden, Frost Knight. Frost Knight Fritz Kamen, you deserve praise for blocking my attack. In another direction, a blue knight that had not made any movement also moved, suddenly appeared behind Banner Apskneden, cut, and stabbed at his back with two swords. At this time, Graham had just released his ultimate move, and was in a fatal gap with his remaining strength not yet dissipated and his new strength not yet generated. The sneak attack of Frost Knight perfectly seized this opportunity, and Graham was completely unable to react. If it weren't for the survival instinct alarm that made Graham subconsciously activate his wild intuition, and his reflex speed was explosively improved, he really couldn't block this sneak attack. Graham. X2 Banner Apskneden, cut, because the sneak attack of Frost Knight was repelled, Camus and Amuro, who were not far away, immediately surrounded it from the left and right sides. Camus forced Frost Knight to retreat, making it unable to pursue, and Amuro came to the side of Banner Apskneden, cut. I'm fine, but this guy has no moral principles. Graham was very unhappy after being ambushed. Although he fully understood that there is no such thing as meanness on the battlefield, he was very unhappy. Leave it to me, Camus, Amuro, don't steal my prey. Okay. X2 Camus and Amuro knew that Graham had locked onto this prey for a long time. Of course, they would not be so ignorant as to steal Graham's prey, but they would not completely leave Graham alone. When cleaning up other enemies, they would keep part of their attention on Flag Apskneden, cut, to ensure that they could provide immediate support in case of an accident. Frost Knight? Haha, you really made me wait so long. Graham said excitedly. Flag Apskneden, cut, raised the physical sword in his right hand and pointed it at Frost Knight. Let's start hunting. Frost Knight did not answer with any words, but responded to Graham with actions, crossing his swords and slashing them out, and the ice blue cross sword energy went straight to Flag Apskneden, cut. There are flaws everywhere. Flag Apskneden, cut, casually slashed with his sword, and the cross sword energy dissipated from the intersection. At the same time, he turned his wrist, held the sword in his backhand, and swung it down fiercely. Ling. As expected, Flag Apskneden, cut, S backhand sword collided with Frost Knight's frost blade. The strength of both sides was equal, and they were in a stalemate. However, Graham soon discovered something was wrong. He swung his other sword from bottom to top, increasing the force in repelling Frost Knight. His eyes fell on the sharp sword that had just been in a stalemate, and he saw that the surface of the blade was covered with a thin layer of frost. Is this your special ability? Banner Apskneden, cut, waved his sword, and the frost shattered, and crystal-clear ice crystals floated away. Although Banner Apskneden, cut, easily shook off the frost, Graham's expression at the moment was very solemn. The frost seemed fragile, but it was actually very scary. The physical sword of Banner Apskneden, cut, was not just a high-frequency vibration sword, but also had Graham's mental waves attached to it, causing the frost to fail to freeze the internal structure of the physical sword. And the special ability of Frost Knight, if an ordinary body was touched, it would soon be frozen along with the internal structure. It is estimated that the pilots in the cockpit cannot avoid it, right? They will be frozen directly and die in the cockpit. The body will be completely frozen and will break at the touch? Frost Knight, still did not answer Graham with words, but directly expressed his purpose with actions. With two swords in hand, he rushed towards Flagabskneten, cut. Oh, good luck, I chose the right prey. Phantom flame slash. The fighting spirit erupted and surrounded the two swords, igniting the two swords, burning with blazing flames. At the same time, it also merged with the wormhole energy, and the red flames turned into a deep, mysterious dark purple, full of ominous feelings. With both hands dancing, the two swords slashed out, and the flames attached to the blades turned into arcs and shot straight towards Frost Knight. As Graham expected, Frost Knight did not choose to hold up the two swords to resist, but instead dodged sideways and bypassed Graham's phantom flame slash. Graham's speculation was not wrong. The opponent was named Frost Knight, and his special ability was the ability to freeze with frost, so his nemesis was flame. Of course, it couldn't be an ordinary flame. The most concrete manifestation of Graham's fighting spirit was flame. It was the manifestation of Graham's passion and desire to fight like a flame, supplemented by the spirit wave, and the wormhole energy gave it the characteristics of swallowing. It combined the spirit wave, fighting spirit, and wormhole energy into one, and even the air could burn. The spirit wave did not stop, and the flame did not go out. So Graham said that he chose the right prey. Not only was the opponent's ability restrained by his fighting spirit, but at the same time, unlike the three knights, Joy, Bloody, and Wisdom, Silence was golden. The two planes collided again, fighting in close combat. The sword light flashed frequently, the sound of metal colliding was endless, and the speed of close combat was so fast that ordinary people could not see it clearly with their naked eyes. Bang! Seizing the opportunity, Flagabskneten kicked Frost Knight in the waist and kicked him out. There's a chance. Frost Knight lost his balance, and Graham couldn't let this opportunity go. He took advantage of the victory and locked onto the Death Star that finally appeared on his body, and made a fatal stab. However, just as the tip of the blade was about to pierce the Death Star and the body of Frost Knight, a powerful energy shock suddenly erupted from the body of Frost Knight, and a storm of ice and snow instantly rolled up around it. Graham also held back and did not use all his skills. Flagabskneten suddenly stopped moving, and immediately retreated in the opposite direction, distanced himself from Frost Knight, and withdrew from the range covered by the ice and snowstorm. Transformed. Roar. Graham's guess was soon confirmed. With a fierce roar, the ice storm was torn apart by two sharp claws extending from the center, and endless ice crystals scattered, adding a dreamlike ice and snow scene to the universe. The Frost Knight, who was originally in the eye of the storm, has changed a lot. His body has been stretched, but not bloated. Instead, he is as slender as a woman. The two swords can no longer be seen in his thin and long hands. Instead, the slender five-finger claws shine with a cold blue light. A tail composed of ice blue joints grows from the coccyx, and a sharp barb hangs at the end of the tail. You know, it looks good. Then, before he finished speaking, Graham's eyes were filled with a flame of victory, and the blood in his body was mobilized. Let's start the second round. Chapter 1455 Silly, Flame Knight. SSSSSSSSS. Buzz. On the other side of the battlefield, Dawn Ersterlin, Creation, and Flame Knight collided fiercely as never before. Two meteors, one gold and one red, collided back and forth in the current universe, colliding more than a dozen times every second. The moment the two machines separated, the golden particles condensed into GN Super Dragoons and opened fire. The Flame Knight, wrapped in flames, swung the giant sword in his hand fiercely. The sword wind not only defeated the energy beam, but also melted and disintegrated the newly condensed GN Super Dragoons by the extremely high temperature of the sword wind. Dawn Ersterlin, Creation, appeared above the head of Flame Knight, with its golden wings stretched and closed in front of it. The huge golden blade was wrapped in purple-black wormhole energy, and it rotated at high speed with the tumbling of its body, turning into a huge sharp light wheel to cut down. Even in the airless universe, it made a sizzling sound when the space waves were rubbed. Flame Knight was not so easy to kill. He held up his huge sword to block the cutting of the light wheel and used the impact force to quickly retreat. But Yang Hui would not miss the opportunity to pursue the victory. The light wheel instantly dispersed into golden particles. Dawn Ersterlin, Creation, also stopped rolling. Its wings flapped lightly and turned into a golden streamer to catch up with Flame Knight. During the charge, it had already grasped two high-frequency vibrating swords, inserted them into the gap between the arms from below, and slashed left and right, trying to cut off Flame Knight's arms. Flame Knight would not let Yang Hui succeed. He immediately let go of the huge sword, turned over and leaned back, kicked the side of the huge sword with his thick right leg, and flew backward with the huge sword. But how could Yang Hui let Flame Knight retreat like this? The golden particles condensed into a huge metal bowl-shaped object in the direction of the Flame Knight's retreat, covering the Flame Knight in it. At the same time, a large number of GN Super Dragoons condensed around Dawn Erstellen, creation, holding two small quantum reaction cannons in both hands, firing one after another, all falling into the mouth of the bowl. Swish! The alarm in his mind sounded, and Dawn Erstellen, creation, disappeared in a flash. Several flaming swords tore apart Dawn Erstellen, creation's fire blockade. The sword light flashed, and the bowl-shaped metal object was also cut into pieces, revealing the figure of Flame Knight. Although it was a little broken, it was only the outer armor that was broken, and the main body was not seriously damaged. It's worthy of being a fake of that adult. It's quite powerful. Flame Knight carried the giant sword on his shoulder and stood in front of Dawn Erstellen, creation. You're too flattering. It's just the level of Zay Knight. Yang Hui said indifferently. Haha, don't get too carried away, fake. The Flame Knight sneered with disdain. Joy has always been a waste. If it weren't for the adult's appreciation of his clown qualifications, he would not be qualified to be on the same level with us. As for Bloody, he is still a good guy, but a little too rigid. Is he really a fake? He doesn't even have the courage to fight one-on-one. Haha, I don't think sneak attacks are an act of martial ethics. Yang Hui sneered back. The surprise attack of the Flame Knight is not the principle of chivalry, not to mention that this is a battlefield. There is no such thing as mean and aboveboard. Victory is everything. However, Yang Hui dare not underestimate the Flame Knight. He didn't expect that the heavy knight, who seemed to fight wildly and aggressively, had good mobility and flexibility, and was also very flexible in combat awareness. Just like Yang Hui was going to cut off its hands just now, it deftly resolved the attack. A fake is a fake, not worthy of being mentioned in the same breath with an adult. Your only value is the merit of becoming my advanced apostle. Apostle. Yang Hui heard this and wrote down the two most critical words, but he didn't have time to think about it, and before he could continue to ask questions, Flame Knight charged again, raising the giant sword in his hand high, ready to cut Dawn Erstellen, creation, in half. A fool and a reckless man, that's my type. Even though Flame Knight came to Dawn Erstellen, creation, in the blink of an eye, Dawn Erstellen, creation, still didn't dodge at all, as if he was scared and didn't move, but Yang Hui's mouth was curled up with a cold arc. Swish! In the distant universe, a deep wormhole ray rushed over, brushing against the left face of Dawn Erstellen, creation, and accurately hit the blade of the Flame Knight's giant sword. The wormhole ray with the devouring characteristics did not bite a gap in the giant sword, but the huge force stopped the giant sword from falling, and even bounced it high, causing the Flame Knight's middle door to open. Dawn Erstellen, creation, did not hesitate, and the two swords chopped down at the Flame Knight's arms from top to bottom. Each of the magic swords was the Knight's most powerful weapon, and it was also the source of all their combat power. As long as the arms were cut off and the giant swords were taken away, Flame Knight would not be a threat. However, in front of the attack that was like a stream of light, Flame Knight responded in a way that Yang Hui could not imagine at all. With a reverse force, he raised his arms high and did not let them fall. At the same time, he inserted the giant sword behind his back, straightened his chest, and used his chest to block the slash of Dawnbreaker Erstellen, creation. Puff! The armor on his chest was broken, and the skin and flesh under the armor were torn, revealing the core gem, which was also the cockpit of Flame Knight. Since I can't cut off your arms, I'll just take your life. Yang Hui thought so, and at the same time, he raised his right leg high. Not only did the golden particles wrap his right leg, but it also condensed a sharp high-frequency vibration blade. At the same time, the wormhole energy attached to it, and the black blade stabbed out fiercely, aiming directly at the gem on his chest. However, at this moment, the alarm bells in Yang Hui's mind rang loudly. At the same time, the space around Flame Knight began to distort, and even the arm of Dawnbreaker Erstling creation showed signs of melting. Yang Hui did not dare to think too much, and immediately controlled Dawnbreaker Erstling creation to retreat quickly. After retreating about 1 or 2 kilometers, the alarm in his mind stopped. In the next second, blazing flames suddenly ignited around the Flame Knight, and the vast universe turned into a sea of fire. In the center of the sea of fire, the Flame Knight was reborn in the flames that twisted the space. Roar! The roar spread out in a ripple-like manner, and the Flame Knight's body expanded by more than 3 times. The originally damaged armor was restored to its original state, even more shinier and more beautiful, and was also covered with the more hideous spikes. Solid muscle tissue could be seen in the gaps of the armor. The 2 hands became 4 hands, each holding a larger divine sword, and bloody flesh wings spread out behind him. Swish! At the moment when the flesh wings stretched out, the Luna division in the distance pulled the trigger again. There was no splitting, no refraction, and the rich wormhole energy penetrated the bat-like flesh wings in a spiral posture. But this didn't mean much. This super strong self-healing ability had already been experienced by Joy Knight and Bloody Knight. In just a few seconds, the flesh wings recovered. Tisk, trouble. Yang Hui cursed inwardly, and at this time, Luna Division, Nightingale Transfer, Aim Induction, and Kabbalan Zersetsung also came and surrounded Flame Knight. Chapter 1456, Fighting Together, Flame Knight. Tisk. I didn't expect to see such a wonder in the universe. With the arrival of support, the Sickled Dragonfly and the Questioner were quickly destroyed. Now only a few king insects are still fighting. Although more Sickled Dragonfly and even more types of flying insects are constantly hatching, the huge swarm of insects has been almost wiped out. Without long-range attack methods, they are surrounded by the fleet and helpless. At this time, on the left and right, 1 ice and 1 fire, a storm of ice and fire appeared in the universe. This is a magnificent sight that everyone can't imagine. It's a pity. Now it's a battle, and the person who caused this phenomenon is the enemy. Are Mr. Yang Hui and Mr. Graham okay? Ida Longsheng said worriedly, wanting to go up to help. Calm down, Longsheng, we can't get involved. Lattice F. Brasida warned Ida Longsheng that Sanai Greywali had already warned everyone to stay away from the battle area at both ends of ice and fire. Not to mention participating in the battle, even if they get a little closer, their bodies are in danger of melting or freezing completely. Only those who have successfully awakened the Dawn series and have fully adapted to their own bodies and abilities can participate in their battles. Ida Takamori is a telekinetic user and one of the users of mental waves, but the strength of his mental waves is far from meeting the requirements. Even using too many telekinetic moves will make him very weak, not to mention using mental waves to wrap the entire body for a fierce battle. Not only Ida Takamori, but also Gurlin K, who is also a telekinetic user, Jian Ti, who can also use the power of will, Ryan Rima, Shishi Wankai, Tian Hai Go, Jidao Jimi and others, all of whom are unable to participate. They can only eliminate the scattered, Scythe Dragonfly, and continue to guard the White Fortress, and Drestriga, but they look at the ice and firestorm and can only see the constant flashes of fire in it, but they can't figure out what is going on inside. Now we can only trust them, they won't lose. Elzin persuaded everyone, not only Ida Takamori, he also wanted to participate, and he believed that others had the same idea. I'm not good enough at studying. Zheng Jia also struggled for a long time, and then said helplessly and unwillingly. At this time, Gundam ELS flew out of the quantum channel, which scared them. Although they had seen it once before, if it suddenly appeared beside them at such a tense time, everyone would have a stress reaction, right? Who is Daba Melid? Setsuna asked in the communication channel. I am. You are Mr. Setsuna, right? Daba drove his own machine to the front of Gundam ELS accompanied by Lacey and Am. Who is Volflat? Gundam ELS nodded and continued to ask. I am Volflat. Although Volflat was once a member of the Holy Knights, she only boarded Drestriga as a guest, and she had not been on the battlefield for a long time, resulting in her unskilled combat skills, so she stayed in Drestriga on standby after the battle began. You, as well as A.G. St. Claus, Huso Ibn, Lion King Kai, Jianti I, and Liu Longma, follow me. Yang Hui orders us to assist you in completely suppressing the capital of Punta Cana, rescue the hostages, and capture or eliminate the target Commander. Shanna said to everyone calmly. This. Thank you very much. At this time, Daba was very excited. He thought that the battle was so fierce that he had no time to take care of cows and Alabi and Commander. He never thought that Yang Hui had always remembered this matter and asked Shanna to help him. Thank you very much. Valfrat also felt the difference between Yang Hui and Commander. She didn't know whether he would become a tyrant who ruled the world in the future, but she knew one thing now, that Yang Hui was more trustworthy than Commander. I can leave right away. Valfrat said, and then connected the communication with Mitsuha Greywall. Captain Mitsuha, request a spare Ms. Although I haven't driven it for a long time, I still remember some of it. Approved. Colonel Yang Hui approved it before the battle began. Mitsuha Greywall did not think about the pros and cons, and directly agreed to Valflat. Thank you very much. After getting approval, Valflat immediately left the room and went to the hangar. According to Mitsuha Greywall's instructions, he found the V Gundam number 1 that had been prepared long ago, and attacked to meet with Setsuna and others. Follow me. Seeing that everyone who was called was present, Gundam ELS opened the quantum channel again and drilled in without hesitation, which made everyone stunned and hesitant. After all, quantum jumps are still a bit too sci-fi for them, and they dare not try it easily. Daba bit his lip tightly. When he thought about his fiancée's life or death, he made up his mind and drove the machine into it. Seeing this, Lacey and M naturally did not dare to hesitate and also entered the quantum jump channel. The others followed closely. After they all passed, the quantum jump channel disappeared. Shua the 4 hands of the Flame Knight, who had changed greatly, wielded 4 giant swords tightly. The huge power was also very flexible. The slash of any giant sword could easily cut off a space battleship, and the sharp sword energy wielded by the 4 giant swords made Dawn Ersterlin, creation, a little embarrassed for a while. Luna Division, and the Nightingale Transfer, aim induction, and Kabini's Setsung, who came over were also participating in the siege, but except for the attack of Kabini's Setsung, that contained the power of decomposition and needed to be dodged, the others either had to smash it with their airtight sword shadows or directly use their heavy armor to withstand it. Moreover, Flame Knight had always locked his target on Dawn Ersterlin, and was determined not to give up until Yang Hui was killed. Yang Hui was sure that Flame Knight was indeed more powerful than Joy Knight, but like Joy Knight, his reason was devoured by the beast, and he would chase Yang Hui to the end after identifying him as his target, regardless of the greater threat of Heyman, so Yang Hui immediately adjusted his combat strategy. Heyman, you take the lead and I'll create opportunities for you. Yulin, Char, Lala, cover me. Understood. X4, Ersterlin, creation, began to focus on dodging, while Luna Division, split, Nightingale Transfer, transmission, and aim induction, surrounded Flame Knight to provide fire cover. Although the rain of bullets did not cause much damage to Flame Knight, it also restrained its actions and prevented it from concentrating on chasing Ersterlin, creation, and Kabelian's Setsung, decomposition, did not launch any attacks, but kept moving and looking for opportunities. Now, Yang Hui finally adapted to the attack rhythm of Flame Knight. In the less than 1 second gap between the giant sword's continuous swings, Dawn Ersterlin, creation, pulled the trigger, and the small quantum reaction cannon opened fire. The purple-red spiral beam blasted open the chest of Flame Knight, and interrupted its attack. Now, Harmon. Chapter 1457, Both Fall. As soon as Yang Hui finished speaking, several small GN Super Dragoons appeared beside Dawnbreaker, creation, locking their guns on the chest gem of Flame Knight, and bursting with brilliant light. Swish! The beam of light containing the power of decomposition fell on the gem. Originally, there was a special force field blocking it, but it was completely decomposed and dissipated in less than 2 seconds. The beam fell on the gem and penetrated it in the blink of an eye. All the movements of Flame Knight stopped, and the giant sword fell close to the face of Dawnbreaker, creation, becoming the last swan song. The next second, Dawnbreaker, creation, disappeared from the spot, and Flame Knight was suddenly wrapped in raging flames and burned. His body shrank a little bit, and his armor melted a little bit, returning to his original appearance. The sword that was more important than life was still tightly held in his broad palm. Don Ersterlin, creation, made sure that Flame Knight had no reaction and completely stopped moving before approaching. Without hesitation, he cut off its right hand with the sword. Without any energy blessing, Flame Knight's whole body became extremely fragile. A simple sword cut it off, and at the same time created two blocking devices to respectively install the severed right hand and the giant sword, as well as the stopped body. Char, Lala, Heyman, transport it back to the 7th Fleet, and then Heyman, you will take the 8th Fleet to Jerkustan and hand it over to the old man. Char, Lala, you will temporarily leave the team and escort it with Heyman. Yang Hui ordered Heyman. Understood. X3 Char, Lala Sin and Heyman did not refute. They knew very well the importance of this giant sword and Flame Knight. They knew too little about the Temple of Slaughter and Knights. At present, it seems that each Knight has different special abilities and can study more things from the wreckage, which will be more advantageous in the future war against the Temple of Slaughter and Knights. Yolan, let's go to the other side. It looks like it's over. After handing over the Flame Knight to Char, Lala Sin and Heyman, Yang Hui prepared to take Yulin to support the other side, but just as he was about to leave, the ice and snowstorm on the other side also stopped, and the very high energy index disappeared, indicating that Graham had also ended the battle. On the other side, Graham was still responsible for the main attack, and Amuro, Kamui, Young, Kashima Isama and others were holding them back. Although Graham's flame fighting spirit restrained the Frost Knight, compared with the Flame Knight, the Frost Knight was undoubtedly much more difficult to deal with. The attack power of a single attack was not that powerful, and the armor was not that thick, at least it did not dare to withstand everyone's attack, but the mobility of the Frost Knight was several times that of the Flame Knight, and the ability to freeze would quickly consume everyone's physical strength and energy. And the most important point, the reason of the Frost Knight was not completely swallowed by the beast, and he was more rational and methodical when fighting. Finally, under the desperate cover of Amuro and Kamu, Young and Kashima Yang desperately created a fatal flaw. Graham locked a Death Star on the chest of Frost Knight and delivered a fatal blow with the flag Abskneten, cut off. Yang, are you okay? Graham said worriedly. It's okay. X2 answered at the same time, pulled out the tail blades inserted in the chest of their respective bodies, and used the assimilation ability to repair the gap in the cockpit. They were also scared to death. Frost Knight did not use the hidden killer move until the end. The long tail with the tail blade was not just one but two. This also caused Young and Kashima Yang to encounter a crisis at the same time. As long as Graham's killing was a few tenths of a second later, they would be dead. When the action stopped, the tip of the tail blade was only a few millimeters away from their faces. Graham, Frost Knight is more than one level stronger than Joy Knight. Tieria said to Graham. Yes, I underestimated the enemy. Graham was still in shock. If he had been a little slower, Young and Kashima Isama would have become the first and second A-level trump cards to be killed since the establishment of the Promised Legion. At present, Graham and the Temple of Slaughter have only the Joy Knight and Bloody Knight as cadre level knights, except for the Festum and Snake races, so Graham subconsciously judged that the strength of the Knight was equal to that of the Joy and Bloody Knights. In addition, after entering the Fafnir world of the sky, their strength has been maintained at a steady and not low speed, so they underestimated the Frost Knight. Are you alright? Don Ersterlin, Creation, and Luna Division, Split, arrived and noticed that everyone was not in a good state. It's okay, but I underestimated the enemy. They are not at the same level as the Joy Knight. Graham said with some annoyance and regret. It's the same on my side. Fortunately, there were no casualties and we got very important intelligence. Yang Hui said as he sealed off the Frost Knight that had transformed back to its original form and handed it to Young and Kashima Yang. Amuro, Kamius, Yuan Young and Yang send these back to the 7th Fleet, and then follow them to send them to the old man. Understood. X4 including Char, Larasin and Heyman, there are a total of 7 A-level aces plus 2 fleets escorting the spoils to Jerkustan. Yang Hui will even order Jerkustan to be ready to respond, but no one thinks this is an exaggeration. Everything related to the Temple of Slaughter and the Knight needs to be treated with the highest level of attitude. On the one hand, the combat effectiveness of the Temple of Slaughter and the Knight is very strong. Taking the Flame Knight and Frost Knight as a reference for strength, even top A-level aces such as Yang Hui, Graham, and Yulin will need at least 2 A-level aces to assist them to have a chance of defeating them, and there is definitely more than one Knight in this world. Others, clean up the battlefield immediately and collect samples from the Zago tribe, especially the overlords. Collect as many samples as you can. Don Ersterlin, Creation, looked around and found that all the overlords were killed by the fierce firepower of the fleet. Because they did not know the enemy well, they did not dare to underestimate them and directly use the strongest firepower to kill them. No overlord's body was intact. Even the one with the most remaining only had 1/3 of its body left. Graham, is it okay? Yang Hui asked Graham again. What do you think? Graham responded to Yang Hui unhappily. You and Yulin follow me, we're going to Punta Cana. Understood. X2. Chapter 1458 The Dust Settles. The three machines, Dawn Ersterlin, Creation, Luna Division, Split, and Flagabskneten, Cut, came to the capital of Punta Cana and landed in front of the huge Porzelda statue. Under the leadership of Setsuna, the capital of Punta Cana has been strongly suppressed. The soldiers of Punta Cana who were controlled by Amandala Commandala were either slaughtered and eaten by Scythe Dragonfly, or cut into human sticks by a Gundam ELS, and all personnel were controlled by the companion ELS. After receiving Setsuna's reply, Yang Hui, Yulin and Graham were not worried about any danger. They left the machine and walked into the statue and came to the throne of the ruler of Punta Cana. However, the former emperor no longer had the posture of an emperor. A man who was bound by ELS, raging and struggling in impotence, a woman who knelt on the ground, expressionless but crying all the time. After being caught by Setsuna, Commandera kept talking, even though Setsuna thought he was a prisoner, so he blocked his mouth and could only make sounds. Yang Hui glanced at Valfrat, who was standing aside and didn't know what to do, nodded to her, and then came to Commandera to let Setsuna untie his mouth. Yang Hui. Tell me, how did you get in touch with the Knight? Yang Hui went straight to the point and asked Commandera. Let's make a deal. I'll tell you their information, and you let me go. Commandera has been a businessman for a long time, and he is good at judging the situation, but at the same time, he has been controlling Punta Cana as a behind-the-scenes manipulator, and he also has the arrogance of a superior. In addition, in order to survive, he did not see his position clearly this time. Yang Hui didn't waste time talking to Commandera. He made a gesture and asked Setsuna to completely control him and take him away, leave only enough biosensors in his body to keep him alive, destroy all the others, and hand them over to Cruz. Understood. Wait? Yang Hui. You can't do this. The information I know is very important to you. You can't kill me. Yang Hui. Yang Hui. Yang Hui ignored Commandera who was dragged away by Setsuna. The most difficult part about him was the powerful mental wave that didn't belong to him. As long as the biosensors in his body were destroyed, the mental wave that didn't belong to him would no longer exist. By then, Cruz would have plenty of ways to pry open his mouth. Then, Yang Hui came to Mayankuhawaksha, the fake Porzelda, and pulled out the pistol from his waist and handed it to her. The meaning was very clear, letting her end it herself. Through the induction feedback of mental waves, Mayankuhawaksha has lost all hope and has no desire to live. With her identity and what she has done, Yang Hui cannot give her new faith. Letting her end her life by herself is to give her the last dignity. Mayankuhawaksha raised her head, looked at Yang Hui with gratitude, and took the pistol. Yang Hui turned and left, and Valflat followed. Before Yang Hui arrived, she had talked to Mayankuhawaksha and wanted to take her to Sart to spend the rest of her life and enjoy the last piece, but Mayankuhawaksha refused. She was in the same boat and couldn't say anything. Bang! Gunshots rang out behind the two of them. Valflat paused, then suppressed the sadness of empathy and followed Yang Hui. She was also very tired. She also wanted to die and end her sad life, but she was different from Mayankuhawaksha. She still had Sart, which was a new faith that allowed her to continue living. You will return to Sartre in 2 days. I don't want to hear the chaotic voices on Sartre again. Yang Hui gave her instructions without even looking at Volflat. Your will. Volflat was very humble and completely followed Yang Hui's orders. Unlike her previous actions based on her love for Amandala Commandala, she could see the overall situation clearly. Yang Hui could easily dominate her life and death, and even Sartre's life and death. Similarly, if Sartre was attacked by the enemy, he would send people to rescue. Yang Hui had no defense against Volflat, and he didn't need any defense. It was just that Sartre was not able to cause any trouble. If he continued to play tricks, Yang Hui would not mind dropping a Dimension Devourer on Sartre. After they separated, Yang Hui found Dabba. There were still two things to be done in Punta Cana. One was to determine the future manager of Punta Cana. Volfrat was very suitable, but Yang Hui asked for her opinion. Volfrat said that she was unwilling to sit in that position. Mian Q Hawuxia had a miserable life because of that position, and even died in that position. She didn't want to repeat the same mistakes, and she didn't want to be reminded of the past. In this regard, Yang Hui did not force it. The Promise Corps had cultivated a large number of outstanding management talents for the internal management of various worlds, and they could take over at any time. The second thing was the agreement with Dabba. Colonel Yang Hui, can you save her? Dabba, who was originally sitting by the bed, saw Yang Hui coming and stood up excitedly and asked, "How is the situation?" Yang Hui asked Dabba in return. He had just arrived and didn't know anything. How could he help him? The situation is very bad. Dabba's face sank and he was very depressed. Cousin Alabi was brainwashed by Mian Kuhausha when she was very young, and she has been in a state of mental control, which caused her to completely forget the past. However, after meeting Dabba, the memory that had been blocked began to revive, causing a violent conflict between the original giving and the deep-rooted brainwashing, resulting in brain damage. Now she is in a coma. Even if she wakes up, she will have a split personality. It can be solved. Of course, this symptom is not a big problem for the current Promise Corps. As long as the person is not dead, the high-level medical cabin can save her, at least to repair her brain damage. As for mental problems, this can only be done slowly. Among the A-level trump cards, there are many people with gentle mental waves who are suitable for healing. Rita's psychological suggestion is very suitable. If it doesn't work, pull Flit over. He is the most powerful nurse in the Promise Corps. Really? Dabba couldn't believe it. In his common sense, this situation is already incurable, and Yang Hui's request is just the last fluke in his heart. Well, it's not a big problem. It can be treated, but it will take some time. Let's send her back to the White Fortress first. Brad will know how to deal with it. Thank you. Thank you so much. Dabba was so excited that he kept thanking him. Lacey and Em were also happy for Dabba. Although they were a little disappointed to save Cousin Alabi, they didn't want to see Dabba anxious and helpless. Maybe this is the best ending. Chapter 1459, Heaven's Gate, confirmed. The matter of Punta Cana came to an end, and there was no longer any threat to the Promise Corps. Yang Hui came to the Promise, on the one hand to be intimate with Bakalulu, and on the other hand to listen to the report. The armed reconnaissance mission carried out by the Promise had ended, and the specific location of the Heaven's Gate and the specific situation of the Uluguru garrison were determined. Everyone is here, let's start. In the conference room, Yang Hui, Graham, Yulin, Bakalulu, Setsuna, the Dailandi brothers, Aleloja and Tiria were present, and Wang, Rebel, Cruz, and Wang Liumri participated in the form of remote video communication. This report was mainly led by Bakalulu, and supplemented by Setsuna, the Dailandi brothers, Aleloja and Tiria. This armed reconnaissance has determined the coordinates of Heaven's Gate, which is exactly the same as the location provided by Shialia, and a large number of Uluguru troops have been found gathering near Heaven's Gate. Conservative estimates put the number at more than 500,000, most of which are small unmanned fighters, more than 100,000 humanoid mobile weapons, and at least 10,000 small and medium-sized warships. There are 3 Legion commanders who can be confirmed, and a royal machine. Well, everyone was silent. To be honest, it was not a big problem to defeat this huge army and destroy Heaven's Gate. The most powerful Legion commanders and royal families in the Uluguru army were not enough in front of the A-level ace, but there was a very important question, that is, how to completely destroy such a huge army. If these Uluguru troops were scattered and hid in the universe, it would be a big trouble. The universe is so big, And the solar system is not small. It is impossible for so many troops to watch every corner of the universe. It is difficult to find the small hidden troops. If they come out from time to time to attack civilian ships, merchant ships, etc., the world will not be at peace. Isn't it that the Promise conducted armed reconnaissance to determine the location and garrison of the Heaven's Gate in order to solve the problem of Uluguru once and for all? Distribution. Wong asked Bakalulu. Bakalulu uploaded the data obtained from the reconnaissance and displayed it in front of everyone. During the mission, we launched small-scale attacks from 5 directions respectively. We can roughly determine the distribution. The weakest area is this area. As she spoke, a circle mark appeared on the map and troop distribution of the data. The second is this direction, and the most troops are in this direction. 4 more circle marks appeared on the map, and finally, a red circle representing the highest level appeared in the center. Here, the royal family is personally guarding. There are not many troops, but they are all elite soldiers, similar to the elite troops of the royal guards. What about the color? Yang Hui asked Bakalulu. Well, this is another discovery of ours. Bakalulu nodded and uploaded several photos. Each photo was of a different color of Uluguru weapon. The whole body was black, but the lines on the body were different colors: red, yellow, orange, green, and purple. Finally, there was a special body with a white body and blue lines. According to the information provided by Shialia, in Uluguru, white is the symbol of the royal family. Only the royal family can use this color, so it is definitely a royal machine. The others are Bakalulu's discoveries. Based on the different colors, the Uluguru army is divided into 5 major legions, each led by a legion commander. As for the legion commander, it is very easy to identify. Bakalulu called up 2 more pictures, one of which was a green and one purple Uluguru weapon with a special shape. One was like a giant flying toad, and the other was a humanoid with a long whip in the right hand. Yang Hui was impressed. These were the 2 leaders they killed during the Battle of Shingu Star. I have confirmed it with Shialia. Cruz interrupted and added, these 2 are Klein and Rada, the legion commanders of Uluguru. In other words, as long as they are troubled by strange special equipment, they must be the legion commander. Graham asked curiously. Yes. Cruz nodded and answered Graham's question. Uluguru is a royal dictatorship, and it is a civilization that emphasizes genetic hierarchy. The class system is very strict. People in the lower class are not even allowed to have their own thoughts. In the Uluguru army, only the legion commander is qualified to drive a special equipment. In other words, there are no new legion commanders to take over the green and purple legions. On the report map, the 2 directions with the weakest forces are the directions of the green and purple legions. Yang Hui made such a guess. According to the information provided by Shialia, the commander of the Uluguru army cannot be created in a short time. Yes, you heard it right. Except for the royal family, all the people in Uluguru are the products of genetic engineering. For example, Mr. Daniel was created to protect Shialia. The genes of absolute obedience and sacrifice for protection are engraved in his genes. Cruz explained. The value of this information is not high. Rebel shook his head and said, what we need to consider most is how to completely eliminate this army here. We can't spare so many people. After the management team arrives, the 20th and 21st fleets can end their current missions. Just send the former federal army to garrison. Volflat from Satstar will also provide help. Yang Hui said. Xianmu and Victor don't need to stay in Zanskar anymore. My negotiation with Queen Maria has been successful. She will take good care of Zanskar, but send some former federal troops. I will also leave some people. I can't trust her completely now. Cruz said. Not enough. Rebel and Wong shook their heads. The 4 fleets currently idle were not enough to completely destroy this army. Even with the Promise, White Fortress, and Dressliga, they were still not enough. According to their calculations, at least 4 fleets were needed. How about letting Tessa and Masaman's fleet come to support? Yulin asked. Although Jilkustan is very important, the troops left there are too redundant, especially the fleet. Too many of them will hinder each other. I think it should be enough to leave flexible and elite Miss troops. And Flit, SM, Gerhardt, Kara, and Aslan are all in Jilkustan. There are more than 10 A-level aces, and the fleet should be able to release some. Bakalulu agreed with Yulin's point of view. Jilkustan is so small, and too many fleets staying there would be too crowded. But it's not enough. At least 2 fleets are needed. Wang also agreed with Yulin and Bakalulu's suggestions, but there is still a gap. I have an idea about this. Yang Hui said. He didn't forget what he promised Shid and Guang and the other two. Chapter 1460 Cruise's Plan. Go to another world. After Yang Hui proposed his idea, the others were stunned, even Graham and Yulin who had been in Drestriga, because they didn't know about this. In addition to the three demon gods including Race, only Shid and Guang, Lonqi Hai and Feng Huang Temple Feng were present at the time. They didn't publicize this matter, and Yang Hui didn't tell others. After all, this matter was only agreed by him personally, and it had not been completely confirmed. Yes, go to Zafilo, and solve the problem of Jialo Wu by the way. Yang Hui said, and relayed what Race told him to everyone intact. In this way, the threat of Zafilo and Jialo Wu can be directly eliminated, and the First Fleet can be liberated at the same time. The First Fleet should be enough. Although the strength of a fleet has nothing to do with the fleet number, the fleet with a higher number is definitely stronger than the fleet with a lower number in terms of strength, because the fleet with a higher number is formed later, and the earlier the fleet is formed, the more training it has received and the more battles it has participated in. Whether in terms of its own ability or combat experience, it is definitely far superior to the newly formed fleet. Although the First Fleet led by Katie was not the first fleet to be established, its combat effectiveness was not inferior to Fleet's Second Fleet and Gerhardt's Third Fleet. That's why Yang Hui said that by liberating the First Fleet, the gaps in the two fleets could be made up. But, is it really okay? After all, this is going to another world. Although the Promise Corps goes to another world every time to perform a mission, the Promise Fortress is completely trustworthy. It will not be impossible to come back after going there, or encounter danger on the way there. Moreover, the situation in the other world is unclear. It is too dangerous for only Drestriga and White Fortress to go there. After Char and Lala complete their escort mission, they will be able to return. Yulin will not leave for the time being. With this kind of combat power, we will be able to protect ourselves. Yang Hui had already planned this. The upper limit of the power of this world is only the level of star shattering. The threat level will definitely not be higher than that of the powerful Knight. The three strongest members of the Promise Corps are all here. Even if we don't achieve our goal, we will definitely be able to protect ourselves. Moreover, there are A-level aces such as Char, Lala Sin, Amuro, and Camus, as well as the newly promoted A-level Rita Bernal, as well as the Great Demon God, the Real Jeteran, my King Zanya and other quasi-level strongmen, and the Macros level, White Fortress. With this kind of power, there will be no problem in sweeping across many worlds. Everyone fell silent, and began to weigh the pros and cons. The final conclusion they came to was, everyone agreed. Although they were worried about Yang Hui's safety, the mission was really completed, which was of great benefit to the Promise Corps plan. The strength of the First Fleet was among the best in the entire Promise Corps. Once the First Fleet was liberated, the combat power that the Promise Corps could easily mobilize would be unprecedentedly relaxed. Then it's confirmed. The Emperor nodded, and immediately modified and optimized the plan. Dreki Cruz will descend into the Blue Hole next and go to the other world to deal with Saphiro and Garold. I will order Cheyenne, Victor, Walken, Jeffrey and other replacement troops to go to the Jupiter space to keep an eye on the Iluguru army of Heaven's Gate after their arrival, and compress them in that area. Nadal, you have a new task before Drestriga and White Fortress. Come back. The Emperor said to Bakalulu, Promise, will descend on the Earth, search for the location of Overlord, and deal with the Overlord's followers encountered along the way. Just a search? Bakalulu asked. The 5A-level aces of the Celestial Being team are all on the Promise. There is a chance to destroy Overlord, right? Yes, just searching. Wang nodded and confirmed, the location of Overlord is not easy to find, and there is too little information about Overlord. After Drestriga and White Fortress come back, you will have to participate in the Heaven's Gate strategy battle together. It's hard for you to run around. After the Heaven's Gate strategy battle is over, we will start to solve the threat of Overlord. Enemies that can hide in the subspace must be destroyed in one blow. Understood. Baki Lulu replied. As a model soldier, she is never afraid of hard work. She only needs to consider whether the task is reasonable and how to complete it perfectly. Cruz, I will send a Mandala Commandala to you. Before we come back, Pry open his mouth. Before the meeting ended, Yang Hui gave instructions to Cruz. Don't worry, but there is one thing I need your approval for, Cruz said with a serious expression. He had already learned about a mandala situation. It was very easy to pry open his mouth, but he still had a hot potato in his hand that was not easy to deal with. What's the matter? Yang Hui frowned slightly. He had a guess about the person who made Cruz feel difficult. Is it about the hook-claw man? Yes. Cruz nodded, helpless, unwilling, and annoyed. That madman can't be persuaded by ordinary means. I even asked the magic user to replace him, but it failed. The magic user died directly. We still don't know what other tricks he has hidden, so what's your plan? Yang Hui asked Cruz. Let him go. Let him go. Yang Hui frowned even more deeply. Even if the hook-claw man was caught, he would still be a mysterious existence. If he was released in the dark intelligence situation, who knows what kind of tricks he would play, and some people in the team would also cause trouble if they knew about it. Yes, let him go, Cruz said seriously. This was not some sinister idea that came to him suddenly, but a purposeful and accurate plan. Instead of keeping him locked up like this, it's better to let him go, let him finish turning over the cards in his hand, and then solve it once and for all. Aren't you afraid that you can't catch him if you let him go? He is not from Earth. Yang Hui asked Cruz. Don't worry. Cruz was still very confident in his tracking method. I have had people inject him with a large number of nanorobits. This is the latest research result of Mr. Wang. These nanorobits can locate in real time, and they are not based on simple electromagnetic signals, but quantum signals generated by GN particles. Even old man Iolia can't stop and shield them. Do you think the Claw Man can do it? Yang Hui nodded without comment, agreeing with Cruz's statement. Even Iolia Hutchenberg couldn't do it, so the Claw Man naturally couldn't. If the Claw Man had a higher level of technology, why didn't he use it on his comrade? But Yang Hui was a little hesitant. After all, the risk of this plan was still not small, and he didn't want any internal chaos. After thinking for a long time, he was persuaded by Cruz and agreed to his plan. Execute it. You personally watch over this matter and no mistakes are allowed. I will be responsible for Fan. I knew you would agree. Cruz raised the corner of his mouth and returned to his gentle but frightening smile. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 1461 Unexpected Reaction. Oh, is that so? I see. You're not angry. Yang Hui was very surprised and even surprised by Fan's calm attitude. The Hook-Claw Man was Fan's goal to survive, and killing the Hook-Claw Man was something Fan had to do at all costs. To be frank, without the Hook-Claw Man, Fan would have died the moment his fiancée died. Because of this, after the meeting, Yang Hui decided to tell Fan about this matter, so that Fan would not find out the problem in the subsequent plan and cause more trouble. Yang Hui was also fully prepared and persuaded Fan with a lot of words to comfort Fan, but Fan actually accepted it so calmly? Then why did I make so many preparations? Question mark. You will catch him back anyway, right? Fan smiled confidently. Yang Hui was stunned for a moment, then laughed and shook his head. It seems that this period of time has changed you a lot. I can't help it. Just like you said before, I used to be a sparrow locked in a small cage, not knowing how big the sky outside is. Fan picked at the food in front of him, but didn't eat it. From his trembling hands, it can be seen that his heart is not as calm as he said. After going through so much together, I will also become a growing Fan. It doesn't matter if I occasionally follow you and act as a hero Fan. Yang Hui smiled. Fan really likes to give himself nicknames, such as Fan who eats free meals, Fan who is lazy, Fan at dawn. All of them are nicknames he gave himself to express his current life status. Don't worry. Yang Hui also received this heavy trust, patted Fan on the shoulder and assured him, I will fulfill my promise, and the Hook-Claw Man must be yours. Then I'm relieved. After receiving Yang Hui's solemn promise, Fan relaxed a little and wolfed down the food in front of him. However, Fan's problem was solved, and Wendy's was still there. Mr. Yang Hui, my brother? Wendy asked worriedly. As for Michael, you can rest assured. Cruz's plan will only let the Claw Man go. Your brother will still stay under house arrest at the headquarters of the Intelligence Department. Except for the restrictions on his freedom, he lives a good life. Yang Hui said to Wendy. Cruz's plan only has the Claw Man as a character. No one else will be let go. However, except for a stubborn person who has been completely brainwashed by the Claw Man, it is still a question whether others are willing to follow the Claw Man. Children are the easiest to be shaken. The twins joined the Claw Man because they had nowhere to go and were about to die. If they were given a new and peaceful life, they would naturally not follow the Claw Man to wander around and commit crimes. Finally, there's Michael and Fasalina. Fasalina followed the Claw Man not because of the Claw Man's great ideals, but because of Michael. She has been following the Claw Man and responding to the Claw Man's orders. Finally, there is Wendy's brother, Michael. He was already shaken when he was arrested, and he was persuaded by Cruz's words. However, the brainwashing of the Hook Claw Man was quite deep. Until now, he has not been able to come out completely. He is still in a complex psychological struggle. However, according to Cruz, he has improved a lot. If he is taken care of for a while longer, he will be able to communicate normally. Soon after that, he will be released to live a normal life. However, there is a premise, that is, after killing the Hook Claw Man, who knows if they will be brainwashed again after being released in advance by the Hook Claw Man? As for the last stubborn person, shoot him, he is in the late stage of brainwashing and there is no hope. That's good. Knowing that Michael is living well and has not been abused, she is relieved. Then, what about that woman? The questioner is Kalu-Man-99, a free intelligence officer, whose real name is Kalu Mendoza. She collects intelligence for her own purposes, but appears by Fan's side from time to time to provide him with intelligence support, and there is a conflict with Fasalina. Of course I'm locked up with Michael. Yang Hui said as a matter of course. To be honest, Michael's recovery was due to Fasalina's contribution. After all, for men, women are the best poison, fighting poison with poison. Colonel Yang Hui, are we really going to another world? Asked Yuta Hibiki and others. Although many of their companions were guests from another world, going to another world in person was still quite exciting and exciting. Yes, Race and the others can send us to Sefiro, just in time to solve the threat of Shigeto and Karawad. Yang Hui nodded and confirmed. Another world. It's really. What a fantastic feeling. Takarado Rika exclaimed. She was originally just an ordinary high school student in Dujuante. It was already a fantastic thing to be able to contact Uliden and board, Drestriga. As a result, she can now go to another world, which is even more unimaginable. By the way, kid, Artie, the world where Sefiro is your hometown, right? Hibiki Yuta asked Kid and Artie. Yeah, it's the same world. Artie said happily. Although life in the other world is very good, except that the training is a little tiring and the battles are a little dangerous, she certainly wants to go home if she has the chance to go home. Don't think too much, Artie. As a twin, Kid knew what Artie was thinking just by looking at her eyes. We may not have the chance to go home, let alone give you a holiday. Kid, can't you just think about it? Artie complained with a puffy face. Okay, think about it slowly. Kid was used to it. His sister was already a real warrior, but she was still like a child, often out of tune. Drestriga and White Fortress went to the other world with a combat mission. After defeating the High Priest Shigeto in the Kingdom of Kalu, they had to rush back to this world immediately to participate in the Heaven's Gate strategy battle. It can be said that they were so busy that they didn't have time to give you a holiday to go home and rest. Alice, I can't entertain you all now. Artie said dejectedly. After all, after coming to this world, he was unfamiliar with the place and received a lot of care from everyone. Although Artie was often out of tune, he was also a kind-hearted child. He would naturally repay the kindness he received. Don't worry, there will be a chance in the future. Yang Hui patted Kid and Artie on the shoulders and said, since the feasibility of the world channel has been confirmed, a stable channel can be opened in the future. Then I will invite everyone to your home as a guest. Yes. Okay. Mr. Yang Hui. Please don't refuse when the time comes. Artie smiled happily, and Kid also smiled. Kid respected Yang Hui very much. When a strong and mature man stood in front of a young man full of vigor, he would become a benchmark. Chapter 1462 Give Up, Drestriga? After a brief rest and replenishment in Punta Cana, Drestriga, White Fortress, and Promise, set out at the same time and headed for Earth. However, because the mission of Promise was different from that of Drestriga and White Fortress, and it was not the same route, it did not need to be held back by Drestriga, and directly entered the fold channel and disappeared in front of everyone. Drestriga had not yet installed the fold jump system, so White Fortress could only follow Drestriga in the universe. I didn't expect that we were the ones who held back. Mitsuho Greywale and others also lamented that things are unpredictable. When they boarded Drestriga was still the most advanced battleship of the Earth Federation Army, which could be said to be a super-universal mothership that was beyond the current generation. As a result, in front of the Macros-class battleship, it could only hold back. Colonel Yang Hui said that Drestriga will consider adding a fold jump system in the future. Reynold Harding pushed his glasses and said, "Why consider it?" Leon asked in confusion. "Because depending on the situation, we may consider giving up Drestriga." Reynold Harding replied. "Huh?" And not only Leon, but everyone else on the bridge also exclaimed. Drestriga is their first battleship and a companion who has accompanied them through countless hard battles. They are very reluctant to give her up. This kind of thought is also human nature, just like Ptolemy to the Celestial team, the Sorgirl to Flit, SM and others, the Archangel to Meru and others. As captains and crew members, the first battleship is like their first love to them, and it occupies an unforgettable position in their lives. Except for the Archangel, which is still on display in the Battleship Museum of the Gundam Seed World, which other battleship has not died? Can't we strengthen and transform it? Colonel Yang Hui is so powerful. Leon asked expectantly. After all, except for the three demons from Cifero and the wind demon Sebasta, which other Mizon, Drestriga, has not changed its appearance? The three machines of the sex team are completely newly built. Since Miz can do it, can the battleship do it? It's very difficult. Sanai Greywall shook her head and denied Leon's idea. After getting rid of Ochadachi's control, Sanai Greywall studied all kinds of knowledge very hard to satisfy her inner guilt, including the structure of the battleship. Not to mention that the size of the battleship is much larger than that of the Miz, and the entire structure of the battleship is determined by the keel. The basic structure cannot be changed according to what the keel looks like. Changing the keel is not the same as changing the Miz frame. Changing the keel is also a new battleship in a sense. So, Drestriga wants to strengthen its firepower, armor, and speed. There is no problem, but there is one thing that is absolutely unsolvable, that is, to launch the Macros attack mode. The most powerful part of the Macros-class battleship, besides its terrible firepower, is the Macros attack. In the battlefield, a huge battleship suddenly transformed into a giant super robot, which brought unprecedented changes to the battle situation. Therefore, unable to solve this problem, Drestriga had to give up and replace it with a brand new Macros-class battleship. But Colonel Yang Hui also took our ideas into consideration, and the research department also opened a special team to study this topic, so there's still hope. Then, Sanai Greywale comforted everyone's depressed mood, which is also the captain's duty. "Yeah, we got it, Captain." And everyone had hope, so they were not so disappointed, but Sanai Greywale didn't say all the words, that is, the hope she said was only less than 3% hope, and the possibility of success was very small. The Promise Corps would not spend a lot of resources on a project with little gain just to meet the expectations of a small group of people. It must be said that although Drestriga does not have a fold jump system, its own speed is not slow. It returned to Earth from Punta Cana in just 1 week, and then executed a descent program and arrived directly near the Blue Hole. It happened to encounter the First Fleet suppressing the monsters and the armored Crystal Knights pouring out of the Blue Hole. As a friendly force, Dre crews participated in the battle and easily suppressed the offensive of the monsters and the Crystal Knights again. However, in the direction of the First Fleet, Yang Hui and his team found something strange. Kid, Artie and others showed joy because they met acquaintances. "Your Majesty. Prince. Why are you here?" That's right, in the direction of the First Fleet, a large number of Crystal Knights also appeared, but they were not Crystal Knights from the Kingdom of Armored, but from El's country, the Kingdom of Primavera. Leading the way were 2 Crystal Knights that looked the same, but 1 gold and 1 silver. "Your Majesty?" Prince Immunis. After El and the others respectfully knelt to the old man who came down from the silver machine, everyone exclaimed, "Doesn't this mean The previous king and prince of a kingdom have also come to this world. Hey, Emperor Ernst, you are really here too? I heard that you are shining brightly. The sturdy man with long orange hair walked up and patted Elle on the shoulder and laughed. No, 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 Your Majesty Immunis, you are too kind. In fact, we are just helping a little, and we are often dragging our feet. Elle waved his hands repeatedly, and Kid and Yeti also nodded repeatedly. In the original world, they could be proud, but after coming here, after countless battles, big and small, their pride was worn down. Most of the time, they were taken care of by others, and they were only responsible for guerrilla warfare or protecting the position of the warships in battle. Most of the pressure was given to Yang Hui and others. Wow? Even you are like this, what an interesting opponent. Prince Immunis sighed, touching his chin. In their world, Elle is a true child of destiny. Although he is young, he not only led the reform of the Crystal Knights that has not appeared in 100 years, but is also recognized as the strongest pilot. But in this world, it seems that he is still far from it. To be honest, it's not interesting at all. Kid complained, the number is terrifying, and some individuals are also terrifyingly strong. It feels like they will die in one encounter. That's right. Artie quickly added, and those disgusting bugs, it makes people uncomfortable to look at. And there are so many of them. It's really scary. It means that you are still not enough in your studies. Hey, Mr. Yang Hui. X2 While they were talking, Dawn Ersterlin, Creation, had landed nearby, and Yang Hui found them without even changing his pilot suit. Chapter 1463 The Crown Prince and the Late King. Oh? Are you Mr. Yang Hui? I've heard of you for a long time. I'm Immunis Yale Fremvilla, the current Crown Prince of the Fremvilla Kingdom. Nice to meet you, Mr. Immunis. I'm Yang Hui. The two extended their hands and shook hands in a friendly manner. Immunis, who was born in a royal family, was not surprised by the title of Mr. Although he used to call him Your Highness, he was not new to this world and was used to this title, as well as daily greetings such as handshakes. The head here, Miss Katie, showed me some information about you. To be honest, are you really a human? Bang! Ouch! As soon as the question was asked, Immunis was hit hard on the back of his head. The tall and strong man immediately squatted on the ground, covering the bulging back of his head. Immunis, you are so rude. Where are your royal etiquette? Have you learned it from a dog? The white-haired but energetic old man lectured him angrily, then kicked Immunis aside with a look of disgust and greeted Yang Hui. Hello, Sir Yang Hui, I am the 10th king of Fremvilla, Ambrose Tohavo Fremvilla. Hello, Mr. Ambrose, welcome to this world. Due to the critical situation, I cannot receive you well. Please understand. Yang Hui maintained a neither humble nor arrogant attitude, and welcomed Ambrose and others from Fremvilla to this world as equals. It's okay, Lord Yang Hui. After all, it's the problems in our world that have affected you. It's our dereliction of duty. It's only natural that we do our part. Like Immunis, Ambrose had also read Yang Hui's information, and he read it more comprehensively and carefully than Immunis. Although he had handed over the throne to his son, he still maintained the thinking of a king. This was not a simple contact, but had risen to the diplomatic level, and it was diplomacy between worlds. As a king, the first thing he considered was whether this diplomatic activity would bring any danger to the kingdom of Fremvilla, and then consider how to maximize the benefits. The first thing to do was to understand what kind of power and organization the other party was, how much military power it had, and what kind of person the other party's leader was. According to his understanding, Ambrose was sure of two things. The first was that if this world wanted to invade their world, Fremvilla would not be able to resist it no matter what. The excellent Crystal Knights were about the same as the somewhat backward Miss-like Jegan, but they were only relatively backward machines, not to mention that this world also had space battleships that could already travel in space, and the Promise Caller. Even if all the countries in the other world united, they would not be able to defeat the Promise Caller. The second thing was that Ambrose was sure that this information was deliberately shown to him by Katie, which was to tell him clearly that his fist was too big and he could not take it. If he said he would not beat you, he would not beat you. Even if he was going to beat you, he had to accept it obediently, put himself in the right position and attitude, and not be clever. Then there's Yang Hui. I won't say much about his strong personal strength. In Ambrose's eyes, Yang Hui can destroy the entire kingdom of Fremvilla, and even the surrounding countries, without even taking a breath. Then there is Yang Hui's style of doing things. Fortunately, Under the leadership of Yang Hui, all the actions of the Promise Corps are based on stability and peace. They adopt a friendly attitude towards forces that conform to this action purpose, and will only cruelly eliminate those hostile forces that make trouble. Moreover, Ambrose learned that although the Promise Corps is not Yang Hui's one-man show, all members respect Yang Hui very much, and the Corps members are also based on Yang Hui. Even if Yang Hui's words are not an imperial edict, as long as it is an instruction issued by Yang Hui, they will seriously consider it, support it, and make plans and improve plans to ensure that the results are achieved perfectly. Therefore, making friends with Yang Hui means making friends with the entire Promise Corps and the world. This is a great blessing for the Kingdom of Primavera. If nothing else, the military strength will rise by more than a dozen levels. Although the Kingdom of Primavera has never had the heart to dominate the world, but, as a king, how could he not know the difference between no sword and having a sword but not using it? Thank you very much for your assistance, but my department will go to Zafilo immediately and solve the threat of the Kingdom of Jailuaud, so, the formal talks can be handled by my wife. Yang Hui said to Ambrose. On the one hand, time is indeed tight. After eliminating the threats from Zafilo and the Kingdom of Jailuaud, they don't have much time to stay in the other world. They need to return to this world immediately and return to the universe to participate in the Heaven's Gate strategy war. On the other hand, although Yang Hui is the commander-in-chief of the Promise Corps, Wang Liumei and Lakis have always been in charge of politics and diplomacy. Lakis is an idle singer in this world, so this job naturally falls on Wang Liumei. Every profession has its own expertise, and an excellent leader must learn to distribute work reasonably. Justified. That's fine. I can wait for Mr. Yang Hui's free time. Ambrose knew that the wife Yang Hui was talking about was Wang Liumei, the person in charge of politics, but if possible, Ambrose still wanted to talk to Yang Hui directly. Anyway, it was not such a pressing matter. The throne was passed down and the country was not in crisis. Then I understand, but there is one thing I hope you can answer. Yang Hui asked seriously. Excuse me, I will tell you everything I know. Did you come to this world because of the sudden DBD phenomenon, or did you use some method to come to this world through the blue hole with a purpose? This is the question that Yang Hui cares about most, because it is related to the stable channel between the two worlds. I'm here. As a wise king, Ambrose expected Yang Hui to ask this question from the beginning. At first, he was a little hesitant. After all, his understanding of Yang Hui was only from the information. He didn't know what kind of person he was. But after the first meeting, with his eyes, he was sure that Yang Hui was not a bad person, so he felt much more at ease. Sir Yang Hui, do you know that there is a special power called magic in our world? Yes, is it some special magic? Not really. Sir Yang Hui doesn't know much about our world. In fact, there are huge differences between the magic in our world. For example, the magic in our country and neighboring countries is specifically some kind of magical technology that uses magic power, which is a kind of technology. The magic on Zephyro's side is real magic. The reason we can come to this world through the blue hole is that we use the magic device found in ancient ruins. By replenishing a large amount of magic power to build a huge teleportation array, we successfully sent us out of the blue hole. What about the scale? There are a total of 150 fantasy crystal knights who came here with me this time. This is also the limit of the magic device. Ambrose did not hide it because it was easy to check, not to mention that Yang Hui was about to go to their world. The result of the first meeting was good, but the biggest loss would be caused by a little concealment and concern that caused unpleasantness. Magic device. Mr. Ambrose, if possible, I hope. This is the letter I prepared. Ambrose took out a letter and handed it to Yang Hui before Yang Hui finished speaking. He prepared this letter in advance based on Yang Hui's information and guessed Yang Hui's plan. Although I am not a king anymore, you will give this letter to my son, the current King Leotimus. He will make a copy of our country's research materials on magic technology and give it to you. I accept this trust. Chapter 1464 Grand Welcome Ceremony. Hey, Grandpa, is it really okay to just leave it to them? After Yang Hui returned to Drestliga, with Ella and others and took off again, Immunis asked Ambrose. He had been watching the conversation from the side without interrupting, but that didn't mean he didn't have his own ideas. In fact, we don't have a second choice. Ambrose told his grandson with a serious face, what kind of power do you think can stop that man? And, as he said, Ambrose and Immunis looked up at the same time and looked at the huge warships in the sky. This fleet, no matter how many division-level monsters there are, they are not enough to kill. Immunis laughed at himself. Division-level monsters are considered mobile disasters in their place. Usually, hundreds of crystal knights are dispatched and huge sacrifices are made before they can be successfully hunted. However, division-level monsters? For the Promised Legion, they are just slightly larger prey. So, instead of waiting for the other party to be interested and come to us for it, it is better to give it directly and do them a favor. I thought so too. I just wanted to see if you, Grandpa, would become stupid because of your age. Immunis teased. Ha ha ha, although I am indeed old, my eyes are not cloudy yet. You are far from that, brat. Ambrose mocked back. Mutual quarrels are also the daily routine of this grandfather and grandson. But I originally planned to let you go with me, Ambrose said with some regret. He had two considerations. On the one hand, he hoped that Immunis could serve as a bridge for communication between Yang Hui and Fremvilla. Although there were Al, Kid, Artie and others, the royal family could not do nothing. On the other hand, he hoped that Immunis could follow Yang Hui to see the vastness of the world and the vastness of the universe. Moreover, following Yang Hui, he could also grow rapidly. After all, the royal family of Fremvilla was a single-line inheritance, and the next king would be handed over to Immunis. But after thinking about it, he gave up and planned to wait until Drestriga and White Fortress came back from there. Eh? Then why didn't you mention it just now? Immunis was shocked and clenched his fist with an unwilling expression. Compared with staying near the blue hole, he preferred to follow Drestriga to see the magnificent world. Because I don't want you to die on the battlefield. Tisk. Hearing this, Immunis was unwilling, but helpless. He had to admit that most of the battle records he had seen made him shudder and almost lost the courage to face them. He had also seen the battle records of El and the others. He had to admit that El was just a child of destiny before, but now he is a strong man who needs to be looked up to. Kid and Artie are also much stronger than him. Wait until they come back before you go. Although the free time is not long, it is better than going to the battlefield without any preparation. Ambrose said. Tisk, I see. I'm going to see Mr. Sergei now to see if he's free. I heard that Alphonse's guards were trained to death. I'm going to see how terrible the devil instructor is. HMPH, brat, I hope you can stick with it. Ambrose's mouth curled up in a playful arc. He knew very well what his former guards were like. They were definitely the elite among the elites, but only in the kingdom of Fremevera. Ambrose personally visited the training organized by Sergei once, and Ambrose never went to see it a second time. Why? It's too brutal. On the other side, after Yang Hui and others returned to Drestriga, Shido Hikaru, Ryuzuki Kai and Phoenix Temple Feng drove the three demons to attack, ready to activate the teleportation magic and go to Sapporo. The entire ship maintains the second-level combat configuration, all weapon systems are online, and the MIS troops are guarding around the battleship. After arriving, patrols will be dispatched immediately to confirm the safety of the surroundings. Everyone, stay alert. Understood. As Yang Hui's order was transmitted to all places, all departments started to operate at high speed. The MIS troops took turns to return to the hangar for preparation and supply. The weapon system was fully activated, the secondary guns began to charge, and various types of missiles were loaded on the missile launchers. After all the MIS troops were ready, they re-attacked. The GN pinpoint defense system wrapped up the Drestriga and White Fortress, and everything was ready. Zio Guang, Zio Hai, Zio Feng, please. Understood. X3. The three of them closed their eyes and merged with their respective demon gods. The energy of magic spread like ripples, and then surged out majestically, wrapping up everyone in dready cruise. Everyone felt that something was attached to their bodies, but it was completely invisible to the naked eye. The next second, a slight dizziness hit the brain, and they only felt something shaking in front of their eyes, and then they appeared in a completely different place. Is this the feeling of teleportation? It's a bit uncomfortable. Except for Yang Hui and other members from the Promise Corps, everyone else felt uncomfortable. Yang Hui and his team were used to it. This sudden dizziness, even if it was mild, would make people feel nauseous. Fortunately, everyone's training for so long was not in vain. After suppressing the nausea, they cheered up and nervously alerted their surroundings, looking at the surrounding environment and the enemies that might appear at any time. The first and second teams of the Londo Bell team will explore counterclockwise from A01 and S25 respectively, and the others will maintain the second-level combat configuration. Understood. XN Xiao Guang, Xiao Hai, Xiao Feng, can you determine the current location? Yang Hui asked the three people. When they came to a strange world where they were unfamiliar with life, the first thing to do was to determine the current location, so as to determine the direction of the target. Mr. Yang Hui, this is Zafilo, the temple of Shegetu. As he spoke, Rias raised his hand and pointed to the huge crystal building in front of him. Is this Safiro? And everyone was surprised, because in the descriptions of Shiden Guang, Longqi Hai and Fenghuang Temple, Safiro was a very beautiful country, but the scenery that came into everyone's eyes was a barren, lifeless barrenness, creepy, and it had nothing to do with the word beautiful. Yes, this is Safiro, it used to be a very beautiful country. But Princess Amino, who was a pillar, was imprisoned by Shegetu, and the balance of the world was broken. As a result, those monsters appeared, and the land began to become barren. If this continues, not only this country, but even the world will be destroyed. Shiden Guang, Longqi Hai and Fenghuang Temple explained the reason why this land was so barren. This is not just a problem for Safiro, but also for the kingdom of Primavera. Shegetu knew that things would turn out like this, but he still kidnapped Princess Amino. I will never forgive him. Let's go. Defeat the evil priest and save the princess and the world. Kid, Artie and Il said one after another. The kingdom of Primavera is also in this world, so the crisis caused by Shegetu's kidnapping of the pillar is no longer just a problem for Safiro, but a crisis that everyone in this world has to face. Is it really like this? Yang Hui had no evidence and had no contact with Shegetu, but he would not simply believe the one-sided words of Shiden Guang and others. It's not that he doesn't trust them, but how much accurate judgment can a child have? Moreover, there are no fairy tales in the real world. Everyone has a purpose for doing anything. Even if they wander aimlessly, they have the purpose of finding a purpose or relaxing their body and mind. So what is the purpose of Shegetu's doing this? Simply want to destroy the world? As Shiden Guang and the others said, both the pillars and the priests who assist the pillars are chosen by the world. Will the world choose a man who hates the world and destroys the world to assist the pillars? This question will soon be answered, but there is another important problem that needs to be solved before everyone. Ding 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 ding. Enemy appears. The number exceeds 20,000. And it is still increasing. Among them, Warcraft and Kaludu Phantom Knight were found. This welcome ceremony is a bit grand. Yang Hui's mouth curled up with a dangerous smile. The truth will be explored if there is a chance. The most urgent task is to eliminate all the enemies standing in their way. Chapter 1465. Dare to introduce yourself? Among the monsters, Yang Hui saw the old friend who escaped from his hands, the white wolf Inoba, and in the camp of the kingdom of Kaluaud, the white and gold spot on the dark crystal knight was particularly eye-catching. It was the commander of the other side. In this way, the target was very clear. When he was about to issue the order to start the war, a soft but very weak mental wave suddenly spread from the tip of the huge crystal city floating in the air, connecting with everyone in Dreddy Cruise, and a gentle and pleasant voice sounded in everyone's mind. I am Amino of Zafilo. Princess Amino. XN Magic Knights. My power is declining. Soon I will not be able to communicate with you like I do now. Are you okay? What did Shegetu do to you? Shiden Guang asked anxiously, because Princess Amino's voice was very weak and was gradually weakening. Magic Knights, there is no time, please, fulfill my wish, and save Safiro, save this world. Princess Amino's voice disappeared. She was so weak that she could no longer maintain telepathic communication, which was enough to prove that her current situation was very dangerous. Damn it. Shigato, you bastard. What did you do to Princess Amino? We can never forgive him. Everyone. Let's go. Rescue Princess Amino. Don't be impulsive, stay where you are. The disconnection of telepathic communication made everyone realize the dangerous situation of Princess Amino. The young people led by Shiden Guang were filled with righteous indignation and wanted to rush up to tear the enemy in front of them to pieces and rescue Princess Amino. At the critical moment, Yang Hui's stern shout made them calm down. Mr. Yang Hui. Don't be impulsive, stand by. Yang Hui was not afraid of Shigetu, who didn't show up, nor was he afraid of the joint army in front of him, but he sensed an abnormality from Amino's mental waves, and it was a very serious abnormality. Rather than saying that Princess Amino was a human being who was a pillar, it was better to say that she was just a machine. Although she was weak, her voice was gentle and pleasant, and the urgent emotions she conveyed were also very clear, but Yang Hui could not feel the existence of humanity in her. Could it be? Yang Hui had some guesses. If this guess was correct, then this battle would not be as simple as defeating Shigetu and rescuing Princess Amino. It might involve more troubles. Dreki Cruz. The Silver Phoenix Knights of Primavera and the other world troops of the Magic Knights. Your fate will end here. Who are you? Kid couldn't help but ask loudly. The platinum-colored machine in the Jai Luoud camp was too arrogant. He had suppressed his resentment in his heart, and he took this opportunity to vent it. I am Christabel, the son of King Barrett of the Garrod Kingdom. As the commander-in-chief of this expedition of the Garrod Kingdom, I will annihilate the enemies of His Highness Shigetu, the ally of the army. Yang Hui. Well, let's do it. As soon as Yang Hui finished speaking, a purple-black wormhole ray passed through the layers of guards of the Garrod Kingdom and accurately penetrated the chest of the platinum-colored machine, swallowing up the pilot in the cockpit. The scene fell into absolute silence. Except for the whistling wind, there was no other sound. Including the warcraft in Inoba, they all looked in the direction of the Garrod Kingdom's army formation and looked at the fallen Crystal Knight. The second prince of the Garrod Kingdom, the commander-in-chief of the expedition, Christabel, died on the battlefield without doing anything after making a bold statement in his first appearance. He died under the gun of Luna Division. Madame Yulin. Yulin sniped the other party before even her companions could react. Although it is said that, to capture the thief first, but to shoot the other party right after the greeting, isn't it too unethical? All troops attack, Amuro, Camus, Rita, lead them to attack the truth of Kaluo Wood, Mitsuha, Brad, provide fire suppression to the monsters. Yang Hui didn't care about these people's surprise, and didn't care about what the other party thought. It happened that they hadn't reacted yet, and the collapse of the command system would definitely cause chaos, so he would kill him while he was sick. Got it. And although they were still a little dazed, the long-term training and teaching made them develop a good habit of not thinking about anything when they couldn't figure it out, and just obeying orders. So the next second after Yang Hui's order was conveyed to them, their bodies moved faster than their brains, following Amuro, Camus and Rita Bernal to attack Kaluo Wood's army. At the same time, Drestriga and White Fortress also began to suppress the monster army led by Inoba with firepower. Missiles and beam cannons fell into the dense group of monsters. Each explosion could take the lives of dozens of monsters, making it difficult for them to move forward. Do you want to take action? Graham asked Yang Hui. Except for Yulin, who fired the first shot, the remaining few people, including him, stood there as spectators. Yang Hui had no intention of joining the battle. There is one thing we need to confirm. Yulin, Xia, Lala, help me open the road to the Sky Castle. Yang Hui said. Understood. X3. As soon as the voice fell, the induction force field of AIM induction spread out in a ripple shape, including the enemy troops heading towards the Sky Castle in the induction network. At the same time, Nightingale Transfer and Luna Division opened fire, and the colorful bombardment swept out a wide and clean passage. Dawn Ersterlin spread its wings, and the moment it flapped, it turned into an attack and rushed in. In just a blink of an eye, it passed the newly opened road and came to the top of the floating castle. Princess Amino's mental wave came from here, and it was already quite weak. Wait? What about me? What do I do? When Yang Hui arrived at the Sky Castle, Graham asked Yang Hui angrily. What he hated most was the audience seats. Catch the white wolf. If you can't catch it, kill it. Yang Hui also gave Graham an order. He wanted to capture the white wolf in Ababa before, in the hope of finding out the secret of magic from it. However, now that they have calmed Zafilo, there are other ways to obtain the secret of magic after solving the threat of Zafilo. Not to mention that Ambrose has also promised Yang Hui relevant information on magic technology. Huh? You look down on me, then I will catch it and show it to you. Graham knew that Yang Hui was provoking him, but he still did it. Flagabskneten, cut, turned into a stream of light and sharp blades, splitting the dark army of magic beasts into two, and rushed towards the white wolf in Ababa in the back. This guy. Yang Hui smiled triumphantly. No matter how old he is, this guy is still a hot-blooded teenager. Huh? Just as Yang Hui was about to blast open the wall of the castle and make contact with Princess Amino, he suddenly realized that the air around him became dangerous, and immediately drove the body back a distance. Sure enough, in the next second, several fierce thunderbolts fell on the position where the flag Abskneden, cut off, was just now, falling on the castle below, and the crystal wall was shattered. Chapter 1466 Love. Demon God. Shigeto. Yang Hui felt something and looked up. He saw a black-based warrior with red armor at the joints. He had a mane like red hair on his head, a shield in one hand and a sword in the other. He was the most loyal knight guard in the princess's castle. What? That's also a demon god. Rias, are there other demon gods? I haven't heard of them. Don't worry about it. The boss is in charge over there. We just need to deal with Karawad. Amuro saw that everyone's attention was attracted by the newly appeared demon god, and immediately scolded them. This was a battle, and even a second of distraction could have fatal consequences. Got it. Got it. XN on Yang Hui's side, Dawn Ersterlin, creation, rose a distance and was level with the newly appeared demon god. The distance between them was not far. In less than a second, the sharp blade of Dawn Ersterlin, creation, could penetrate it, but Yang Hui did not launch an attack immediately, because the mental wave of this demon god was too strange, but it was consistent with his previous guess. So, you didn't capture her to harm her, right? Seeing that the other party did not launch an attack first, and the thunder just now was just to force Dawn Ersterlin, creation, to retreat, and there was no obvious hostility, so Yang Hui asked, guest from another world, you can understand me. I am Shigatu, the high priest of Zafilo. Shigatu, you do all this, because you love her, right? Yang Hui not only asked Shigatu, but also connected to the broadcast of all friendly forces, especially Shid and Guang, Longqi Hai and Fenghuang Temple Feng. Depending on the results of the conversation, Yang Hui might make a different decision. What? How is this possible? Shigatu loves Princess Amino. But, how is this possible? If he loves her, why did he take her away? Shido Hikaru and others found it difficult to understand, but people with rich combat experience such as Amuro, Camus and Rita Bernal asked them to calm down and listen, and not to stop what they were doing. You really can understand me, Yang Hui. From the first time I saw you, I knew that we are the same kind of people. Shigatu's words were full of joy, because he finally met someone who understood him and was the same as him. Being chosen by the world consciousness to become the high priest of the pillar, combined with the characteristics of the pillar, the high priest cannot be a treacherous person, because any negative emotions may pollute the pillar. So, what can make a man with a clean heart and integrity do things at the cost of destroying the world, except saving the person he loves? I can't think of a second point. Shigatu was right in one point. Yang Hui and he were indeed the same kind of people, people who would destroy the world for the person they love. But there are differences. Shigatu is only for Amino, while Yang Hui has wives like Wang Liumei, Katie, Yolin, Meru, Bakalulu, Lakis, as well as companions like Graham, Flit, Sitsuna, Neil, Lyle, Aleloja, etc. If anything happens to any one of them, Yang Hui may go crazy, and the dark side that has been suppressed in his heart may erupt, and the consequences of the eruption are absolutely devastating. In the telepathy just now, I detected a problem from Amino's mental waves. Although the tone, attitude, and even emotions are exactly the same as those of a human, but that is not the mental wave that a human should have. It is more like a machine, a set program. So I made a bold guess that the current Princess Amino is not herself at all, but a puppet controlled by the consciousness called Pillar. What? XN not entirely correct. Shigatu corrected, Her Royal Highness is still Her Royal Highness, but when she was chosen as the Pillar, she gave up most of herself for Zafilo and for the duties of the Pillar, and sealed up all her selfish desires and negative emotions, leaving only selfless wishes, and blessings that the world will become better and better. But human hearts and human nature are destined to not be only beautiful. In order to purify these negative emotions, Her Highness the Princess can only pray day and night, and carry the whole world with her weak body. Is it all this for granted? Question mark. Why does she have to bear all this alone? Even if her mental strength as a pillar is strong, she can't keep going forever. At most, She will die of exhaustion in 5 years. But what can she get? What else can she get except some of your verbal praise and propaganda? After she passes away, a new pillar will be elected, and you can naturally worship and respect the new pillar, and Her Highness the Princess will only be slowly forgotten by you. I am the High Priest of Sephiroth, but I am also a person, and I also have selfish desires. Although I broke the taboo and fell in love with Her Highness the Princess, I don't regret it, and I won't let her continue to suffer. I want to deny the legend of the Magic Knight. I want to save her. These words hit the hearts of Shit and Gong and other young people like a heavy hammer. They had never thought about these things. They just looked at the surface. Shigeto was evil because he captured Princess Amino and imprisoned her, causing the world to become more and more desolate and dilapidated, and even to the point of world destruction. Although it led to such a result, was Shigeto's approach definitely wrong? What reason should they use to refute Shigeto? Use the justice of the world to refute? Use the opposition between good and evil? Or use the interests of the majority? No matter which point they can't say, but the world is being destroyed, and the monsters are a disaster. They have to defeat Shigeto and have to save Princess Amino. Then why did you send so many monsters to our world? Obviously it's none of our business. The one who asked this question was Tama Nagayuta. He was still a simple child. He wanted to say something, but couldn't find a suitable reason, so he found an excuse willfully. Do you know the truth about the birth of monsters? Shigeto smiled coldly and asked Tama Nagayuta. What? Tama Nagayuta was speechless. He knew nothing. The monsters in Sephiroth, except for some special cases, all come from the negative emotions in people's hearts. Your world and this world are mutually dependent. Think about it, what has happened in your world in the past 10 years? Now everyone didn't know what to say. In the past, except for the Year of Miracles, 9 years were in various wars. The whole world was in dire straits and the sense of uneasiness was definitely full. That would definitely create a large number of monsters, not only bringing huge disasters to this world, but also affecting the other side of the world. Those monsters that appeared scattered around the world should be like this. It is also because of your world that the life of Her Royal Highness, the Princess, is rapidly declining. If I don't put her under house arrest, she will continue to pray day and night, and at most, she will not lie for more than 3 months. Then, choose, continue to be my enemy, save the pillar, complete the legend of the Magic Knight, or retreat. As he said, the Dark Demon raised his sword and aimed at Dawn Ersterlin, Creation, and everyone in Dreddy Cruz. Chapter 1467 The Hidden Black Hand. To be honest, I personally understand you. Yang Hui replied to Zijaitu calmly. Maybe it was because they were similar. Compared with the 3 legendary Magic Knights, Yang Hui was more optimistic about Zijaitu, a man who is desperate for his love. But unfortunately, who told him to block his way? But no matter what your reason is, if you pose a threat to us, you are an object to be excluded. I will only give you one chance, surrender. Zijaitu was silent. It was because he knew that he would definitely not be able to beat Yang Hui, so he spent so much time talking at the beginning and gave a choice. If Yang Hui and others were not there, Zijaitu might have said a few words and then started fighting directly. Now, the choice came to him. Not choosing, speaking his own answer with actions, knowing that he could not win, but he had to fight. Boom. The magic energy suddenly erupted, and several fierce lightnings struck the dark sky without dark clouds. Dawn Ersterlin, Creation, disappeared in a flash, leaving the lightning in the air. To Shigeto's surprise, Dawnbreaker Ersterlin, Creation, did not distance himself from the enemy. Instead, he appeared in front of him while dodging the lightning, and the sharp blade in his hand cut across his waist. Cut. Shigeto immediately controlled the demon to retreat, but at this speed, he had no time to dodge, so he could only turn sideways and hold up his shield with his left arm. Swish. In an instant, the breath of death lingered in Shigeto's mind. The survival instinct of the creature made him subconsciously control his body to lean back. In the next second, the purple-black blade easily cut through the knight's shield in his left hand and cut off the mane on the demon's head. If he hadn't subconsciously leaned back, it would have been his head that was chopped off. How is it possible? Shigeto, who dodged the sword, quickly distanced himself from Dawnbreaker Ersterlin, Creation. He couldn't figure out what kind of sword Dawnbreaker Ersterlin, Creation, was holding. How could he cut off the demon shield with one sword? This was a brand new demon god that he had created after exhausting everything he had. Its strength surpassed the 3 legendary demon gods, and Shigeto had also added a high-level defensive magic to the shield. However, Yang Hui did not give Shigeto a chance to think. Before he stopped retreating, several purple-black wormhole rays had arrived and penetrated the demon god's legs. If he had not subconsciously raised his sword to block in front of him, his right arm would not have been saved. However, the knight's sword that blocked the wormhole rays had been broken, and the demon god was left with only his empty hands and upper body. Damn it! Don't think I will surrender. Shigeto roared, mobilizing all his magic power, ready to release a powerful super magic, even at the cost of burning his vitality, in order to fight for the last chance. But how could Yang Hui give Shigeto this opportunity? Swish, swish, swish. At some point, several sword-shaped GN Super Dragoons had arrived beside the demon god, with sword lights flashing. The demon god could only drive them away, and several sword-shaped GN Super Dragoons were inserted into the remains of the body, and the super magic was immediately interrupted. Gat 2. At this moment, Princess Amino's voice sounded again, full of worry. Princess, Your Highness. Shigeto was still alive. Although the sword-type GN Super Dragoon pierced the body of the demon, Yang Hui's mental wave locked Shigeto's position and could avoid him, but it only made the demon completely stop all functions. However, the shattering of the body caused minor injuries, and the internal squeezing made him very uncomfortable. Shigeto, enough, really, enough. Princess, I will definitely find a way to save you. Gat 2. It's not time for life and death, can you stop being so sentimental? Yang Hui complained mercilessly. Although it was a brand new demon, it did not pose much threat to Yang Hui and Dawn Ersterlin creation. Magic was indeed a very powerful force, but according to the performance just now, powerful magic could not be released immediately, and there were obvious shortcomings, so it was easy to make Shigeto completely lose his combat ability. Another point, Yang Hui did not kill Shigeto, because Yang Hui's intuition told him that it was more valuable to let Shigeto live than to kill him, and if he was killed, it might cause some trouble. You won't kill me? Shigeto asked Yang Hui in confusion. He would never stop his plan, that is to say, as long as he was alive, he would not let the pillar pray for the world, and the world would continue to bear the threat of destruction. There are always more solutions than problems. The pillar's problem may be solved in another way, and boom. Before he finished speaking, a terrible dark magic suddenly attacked from afar. Dawn Ersterlin creation immediately condensed a large number of shield-shaped GN Super Dragoons to block the remains of the demon god. After being broken through more than a dozen in a row, they barely disappeared. It seems that the mastermind behind the scenes is a little restless. Yang Hui sneered. From the beginning of the battle, he found that there was a very obscure mental wave hidden in a far distance. Although he couldn't tell the enemy from the enemy, caution had been engraved into Yang Hui's bones, and he had been guarding against that side for a long time. What? Shigeto was also very shocked. The warcraft could not attack him, nor would the magic knights of the kingdom of Kaluaud. Moreover, none of them could use such powerful magic, so, who wanted to kill him? The next second, from behind, Dawnbreaker Ersterlin creation, a purple-black wormhole array passed by Dawnbreaker Ersterlin creation, and shot towards the distance. It escaped, leaving behind a piece of its arm. Yulin's shadow appeared beside Yang Hui and reported to her. Go and retrieve it, and see if we can determine which force it is. Understood. After receiving the order, Luna Division disappeared on the spot, and the palm of Dawn Ersterlin creation also fell on the broken body of the demon god. The emerald green crystals covered it and spread rapidly, wrapping it in the blink of an eye, and then, bang! The emerald green crystals shattered, the remains of the demon god disappeared, and the rugged Shigeto fell on the palm of Dawn Ersterlin creation. So this is magic energy, and it is also a kind of willpower? Not bad. After assimilating the demon god, Yang Hui could only understand the nature and characteristics of magic energy, but he did not know how to mobilize this power correctly without systematically studying magic. At most, he could use pure energy to fire magic cannons. In general, magic power is also a manifestation of will converted into physical power. Strong willpower is converted into magic energy, and then various magics are constructed according to ideas in complex magic knowledge. The energy level is not high, but if the magic knowledge is sufficient, it is a universal energy. What do you want to do? Zigata shouted from the palm of Dawn Ersterlin, creation, and after a moment of silence, he asked Yang Hui. Let's end the battle first. That white wolf, it seems that it is not necessary. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.